Welcome everyone to this live stream after the reveals for the new Lord of the Rings Middle-earth strategy battle game TM, and the announcement that we're getting another new Lord of the Rings or Middle-earth film. I am here today with a venerable pillar of the Middle-earth strategy battle game community. Let's see if we can bring him onto the stage. Oh, sorry.
I can't hear you.
No, because you are the Golden Hall. You are Metaseld, so I can hear you. Can you not hear me?
I can't hear you.
Oh,
this might be.
All right, well, I don't know whether.
Well.
Yeah, I mean,
it looks like you've realised I can't hear you.
I've realised you can't hear me.
You have realised?
I have. Yes, I have realised you can't hear me.
I would nod, but the Golden Hall of Metaseld cannot nod.
But I'm going to ask people at home whether they can hear me. Because, because no one else has said they can't hear me yet. I can hear you, Damien, and I think people at home can probably hear me, but I think you can't hear me, and therefore we can't really get over this impasse. Good. So Fred says they can hear us both. Fred says they can hear us both. You still can't hear me, Damien. All right. So what I'm going to do, so I'm going to remove Damien for a second. Okay, I've removed him for a second so that we can continue. That obviously is a wonderful start to the stream. Exactly what I was hoping for. Just complete and utter chaos. Now, I do want to reassure you that before we started this stream, we actually went through about half an hour of testing and setting everything up to make sure it worked perfectly and had absolutely no issues until this very moment. I'm going to bring Damien back in. Let's see. Damien, can you hear me? Can you hear me? No. Yeah. So Callum says Damien's been banished. He's now been momentarily brought back.
Such a good start. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me? You still can't hear me. It's just the whole stream, guys.
I can hear your audio. This is outstanding. What the?
Literally half an hour of us just asking.
Can you hear me talking now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Why can't I hear you? I could hear you seconds ago. Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember. I mean, I don't know why I'm saying I remember.
Such a good start.
All right, guys. Everyone, take a shot whenever one of us asks whether or not the other person can hear each other.
Nothing changed. I didn't do anything. I just put a giant mead hall on my head. That wouldn't affect the audio.
No, it shouldn't. Damien, I wonder whether I'm going to put a link in the comments for you, and then I'm going to put it on screen. This is the only way we can communicate now.
Studio chat.
Yeah. Anything else coming from your computer? Can you check?
Surely it's at your end, isn't it? When you hit like go live or something.
StreamYard. Okay, so now I've put that comment in chat, and then I can show it to Damien on screen.
Yes, I will. Yeah, well, I heard your I heard your lovely YouTube video.
Okay, all right.
I heard that. That was good. Oh no, hang on, that's good. You're onto a good one here. For some reason, I can't hear any audio from my computer.
Okay, so it sounds like it's.
I haven't turned the audio off. What is that?
Let's try and communicate in a second. Put you back off stage.
Where would that be? What the hell has changed?
Okay. So then we'll show that back to Damien, and we'll bring him back in a moment.
Don't forget to remind them that we were talking mere seconds ago, listening to each other.
Okay, he's been banished again. We were actually having a conversation about how galling it is to have tech issues in a stream because it feels so futile. There's nothing you can do about it, and you just want everything to work. You've spent your time getting ready and getting set up. And then through no fault of your own, presumably, unless it is your fault, it's all gone horribly wrong, which is, I think, quite appropriate given I understand that this morning's reveal stream was utter chaos. And of course, the last reveal stream from Games Workshop was also utter chaos. Whilst we're waiting for Damien to sort himself out, get his computer up running, put in chat what you thought of today's reveals. There is actually a survey that I've been doing, which is on the GBHL page, and it's also on the Battle Camper Facebook group. So you can go to either of those and complete the survey, and I'll be showing the results of that later in the stream. But really interested to hear mainly how hyped were you for the reveals? How satisfied were you with the reveals? So by process of not elimination, but addition. we'll understand whether or not GW managed to meet the expectations of the stream. Do you plan to buy any of the stuff? And if not, why? Is this just because it's not your army, not something you want? Or is it because you are let down by the quality of the products, anything like that? So let us know in the comments. I promise we'll go back to reading them. Let's go bring Damien back in briefly. Let's see. Damien, oh, he's just gone. No, he's just gone. Okay, well, we'll get him back in a moment. Let's do a few comments and say a few hellos. Weirdly, people were commenting before the stream had even started. So some really, really hyped people who really wanted to let the world, or at least the internet, or at least this very, very small corner of it, know exactly what they thought about the new releases. So Sidek West Gaming, I've clicked on the wrong thing. Here we go. Says, I couldn't agree more. Too little, too late. So this is in agreement with, I think, a comment from John McCorkadale, who said, great to have Rohan models, but it's just gone on for too long. Too little, too late. Not that I don't love the game still, only for the turn sequence and the Might Will Fate mechanics. No gripes, just subtle disappointment, mainly over list building. Fred is in. Hello, Fred. How you doing? Sean is in. Hello. Ricky Dreams Pate. Hello. Adept. Fred's pointed out that I think there's a typo or something in my little intro meme video. Everything has been prepared in a hurry, as you might have guessed. Everything's been prepared in a massive rush. So apologies for that. We've got some excitement for Damien. Obviously, Damien's fans are in. Well, hopefully he'll be here and with audio in no time flat. Ricky Drinks Pate said he was hoping for Stephen Crow. I can see Damien back. Let's add him in. Let's see whether or not he can hear us.
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Hey, welcome to the stream, Damien. How are you doing?
I'm fine.
Hey, there we go.
What the hell, man?
We were talking about how horrifying it is when we just want to stream, just want to have a nice little chat. You've got things to say, and then it all goes horribly wrong.
I don't know what that was, mate. I had no audio coming out of my computer. I restarted it. Do you remember how it worked at 8:29?
Yeah, I know. And then a minute later, I mean, just so you know, your microphone sounds a bit weird. It sounded like you knocked it when you put Metacell down. I don't know if you there's kind of like a kind of noise, and then it was muffled. Yeah, there you go. Now talk.
Hello, is that better?
It's not as good as it was before, but
of course it's not.
It almost sounded like a cable was loose.
Is that better? Is that better by any chance?
Not massively. You're perfectly audible. It's fine. You're perfectly audible.
Coming through my phone.
Every time you touch it, it's just this horrible sort of grinding, scratching noise.
That's what she said. Is that better?
Hey, there you go. Yeah. Perfect.
I'll tell you what it is. If that sounds good to you, I'll keep it. But it's for some reason it's using my phone as the microphone. So
okay.
I didn't realize it was doing that. So I hurled Metacell into my phone in a rage, and that's what made this.
That's what happened. Well,
doing that
for whatever reason, you're back and you're sounding good.
Thank you.
So we're going to dive in a moment and just talk about everything that's going on in the world of the Middle-earth strategy battle game. Before we do, I've got a little test. I want to see how on your toes you are today, Damien, if that's okay. It's very, 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 very straightforward. Have a look at the stream screen. I just want you to identify this release from its silhouette. Okay, it's like who's that Pokemon? Yeah,
I'm excited.
So, who's that model? Which model is this?
That looks like a rider of Rohan.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? But I'm disappointed, actually. I thought you were better than this. It's actually a Blood Angel's intercessor. So there you go. Right, moving on. So what do you think, Damien, about
because you know what they've done, right? They've sculpted the Blood Angel's intercessor, and then they've just used the same dolly to make the rider of Rohan.
It's so lazy. It's so lazy. Unbelievable.
Lazy design, yeah.
So, well, first, everyone who's here is going to know who you are already. But brief introduction. You are, it's fair to say, a Middle-earth strategy battle game bigwig. You are the sort of linchpin host of the battle streams in Middle-earth. Editor, what's your title at the magazine? At the
I think we are. I think we are co-creators and co-editors, I think we are.
Co-creators and co-editors of the Middle-earth Strategy fanzine. And it's, I mean, I'm in a lot of wargaming communities. I play a lot of different games. I'm not sure I'm aware of any other fanzine with physical circulation. And you've been going for how many years now?
Oh, that's very kind. Since 2014, I think the first one was late 2014. So is that 12 years, I guess?
12 years. It's extraordinary record of success. Anyone who doesn't know what it is, we'll put a link in the chat, actually. It is an extraordinarily high quality. Yeah, go grab a copy. Fanzine with some remarkable hobby content in there. And there's always a really big sort of centerpiece, center stage battle report that is drawn from the lore. There we go, with some extraordinarily high quality photography. I was lucky enough to go and be a part of the siege of what do you call it? The Edoras, that's the one. There we go. That's me.
Who's this guy?
And that's regrettably me sullying the pages. So you have a long history in Middle Earth. So I'm going to, yeah, there we go. It's absolutely gorgeous stuff. I'm going to throw some phrases at you, some assumptions from my perspective. You tell me whether I'm right or wrong.
Okay.
I think today was only the third time in the history of this game that a core, what I'm going to call a core unit, obviously, a plastic warrior unit has been remade. That there's been a second version of that sculpt. So there's obviously the Warriors of Rohan.
Yep.
There's the I believe, wasn't there two versions of the Easterlings? There was metal Easterlings and they were remade into plastic Easterlings. Am I right about that?
Yeah, so metal Easterling Warriors then became a plastic Easterling Warrior kit,
Plastic
and
Easterling
metal
kit.
Cataphracts became a plastic kit.
Which one did? Sorry.
The Easterling Cavalry, the Cataphracts.
Okay, fine, yeah. And then we have this. I personally, I've not been in the hobby anywhere near as long as you, but I can't think of anything else.
I think it's two. Because the
Warriors of Rohan.
Yeah, so Warriors of Rohan Riders, right? The Easterlings were just metal guys that got turned into a plastic kit.
Okay, fine. Yeah, so this is it then. This is, for plastic's plastic. This is only the second time it's ever happened.
Yeah, I think this is the second time a plastic warrior type has been remade. I think.
I mean, that's obviously both says a lot about the relative gravity of the announcements today, and also for a lot of people, I expect, it's a sorry indictment of the game. And depending on your perspective, it's going to be how you register that. What's your perspective? What do you think?
I think it's fine. I think it's good they're doing it. I think it's always been a niche game, and they were still releasing new stuff. You know, they were doing all the Hobbit stuff when the Rise of Rohan weren't that old, and then they did all the Hobbit stuff, and then they came back and they didn't have plastic warriors, did they? They just had resin stuff, and so now all that stuff's really quite outdated. And I think today is a really important day because today's the first day where I think we might genuinely start to be thinking this is happening maybe across the board. You know, when it was just the starter set, it could just be for the starter set, but this is the first time we've had plastic warriors that aren't to do with the starter set. So
yeah, absolutely.
Long may it continue, right?
I'm going to throw a few of the sort of themes in the comments I've seen at you, and let me know what you think. So a few of the critical themes. One is it's all Rohan central. Everything's Rohan, and no one else is getting any attention. What do you make of that?
Is that in the chat tonight?
That's not been in our chat. We have a higher class of viewer, but certainly it's been coming up in the Great British Hobbit League, and on Battle Camps as well. I'm actually so disgraced for those who aren't in the stream but are on my group.
The starter set's based around the game. If they're going to do another plastic set, it has to be Rise of Rohan. That has to be the next one. I would say if the next one was Royal Guard and the next one was Outriders, you can start to get slightly outraged. But people have spent the last year going, "Where's the Rise of Rohan?" and they're giving you the Rise of Rohan. So,
I mean, me louder than as well. I think at least as loud as the next man.
Well, I'm very happy to be here with you today because this must be a great day for you.
I genuinely been waiting for this for such a long time, and take that as criticism if you like, but that's not how I'm registering it today. I'm a bit different to I think a lot of Middle Earth strategy battle game fans because a lot of them are long-term fans of the game who are really into the older models and quite nostalgic for them. I've always been a bit of a Philistine in that department. I'm not particularly interested in the older models. I play Middle-earth strategy battle game because I love the rules and I love the lore, but I've actually always been held back by the miniatures. It was what kind of stopped me from getting into it for quite a long time. And even now, sometimes I go to tournaments and even with really talented painters, you know, I'm looking at the armies and I'm just like, they don't look as good as I would like them to look. So I'm in that camp, and I get that's not what everyone thinks. So when the Rohan range started to get really beautiful with new plastic warriors, new plastic heroes, just looking fantastic, but missing the riders, I get that some people are like, I want you to move on and do other things. I just wanted that one kit, so you can get to a point where we finally have one plastic large range army where the whole army is on par. You don't have, you know, good modern plastics making the old ones look even worse by comparison. It's just all looks fantastic. And if it's going to be anyone for me, it's going to be Rohan. So I'm personally delighted.
Yeah,
had to be.
I think whether they'll do Royal Guard. Like, I think now, do you have to do Royal Guard, or do you do the Mordor Orcs, Warriors of Minas Tirith, Uruk Hai, Moria God? Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not sure Royal Guard are third.
I agree. I would absolutely. I love there to be Royal Guard. I mean, I despise the current Royal Guard models. Really, really despise them. Massively overcosted. I don't think they look good. They're not fun to paint. But now it is. Now we've got a mainline kit. You know, if you really desperately want some Royal Guard, you can do some converting based on the plastic kits we're getting. And now I suggest people should get their shake, and also hopefully it'll be Isengard anyway, which means I get to take a second bite of the cherry. The second thing we've actually touched on was Royal Guard. The third thing I've noticed, which is I think just an amusing one, a lot of people are pointing out that a lot of the horses, so if you look at the screen here, are standing on a single foot. And some people are saying, have Games Workshop learned nothing? You know? Now, there are already some modern plastics on a single foot. So is it Halith, the prince?
It's Harmer. Harmer's on a single foot. Halith rearing up.
Okay, have you built Harmer? Do you know its sturdiness?
I have built Harmer, yeah.
And does it feel sturdy, or does it feel like they've learned nothing?
Well, you'll be pleased to hear I dropped him and he broke at the ankle.
Okay.
True story. But I did drop him.
I know, but things get dropped. You were there. I think you were there at Seven Stones at the end of one of your tournaments when my box of Rohan got knocked off a bench, and just it was on this magnetic tray, but the tray fell over onto the models, and there was a lot of broken spears. Spears were shattered that day. So anyway,
it has changed though. It used to be a peg in the hoof that went into the thing, and now I haven't seen these sprues, but normally it's like a mound of plastic that gets glued down. So I do think it's stronger, but yeah, when I saw Halith, I was like, I don't want to do this, and it broke. And I was like, please.
Yeah,
I don't like it. I don't like it. You need a tactical rock under one of those or something just to support him, I think.
You say that. I mean, there's no good option. I sympathise with Games Workshop. So this, for example, is a Glade Guard, Glade Rider from the old world. And obviously, I mean, this is an old kit as well. But the solution here was to put these big grass pillars, which just looks awful. My solution is I'd rather cut them off, and I'd rather take the risk than have them there looking a bit goofy. So we're just gonna have to deal with it, I guess.
My Glade Riders they're the 4th edition ones, and they had the same thing. They had the same piece of grass that went up to a hoof, but they were you remember when the bases used to have the 2 slots, and you would slot like half a horse into. Have they still got
it, mate? Got it on this. They didn't give up on it on this one.
Even though it was only held by like an ankle, it had a very, very long, strong supporting bit under the base.
There you go. I forgot you had an old Hammerwood Elves army. Much respect for that. So before we go, we're going to look through the rest of the Warcom article briefly, because of course everyone's talking about the Rohan. And actually some people, amusingly, as we'll get to, have claimed that all they released was Rohan.
Not true.
Which just isn't true at all. So we do have some more Rohan because we've also got the commanders. And I know one of the complaints is that the commanders don't have we still have metal plastic mounted commanders, but
Yeah.
fine. Obviously, it would have been lovely to have, but I will take
Why
commanders
I
over.
thought that would happen, because the last time I think I haven't probably counted. I think the last 4 plastic cavalry sets we've had have had those options, with the exception of Hunter, Orcs, and White. So the Rivendell Knights have a banner and a captain. The Dolan
Yeah.
have a banner and a captain. The Morgul Knights have a banner and a captain, and the Cataphracts have a banner and a captain.
So you're saying that this kit might have a command?
No, I don't think it does, but I think it was a reasonable expectation. But it's the sprue size. It'll be, by the time they've cut it up, they haven't got space. We know they give us free stuff F the space. We got a Palantir on Saruman. We got a whole banner bearer on Elrond, and we got Frodo on Shelob. And I think it's just the case that they would have gone, let's put a banner and a captain on there. Oh, we can't. I haven't got space.
Yeah.
But it is a shame, because you're going to now have, it's like the Royal Guard. You've got the old plastic horses with metal characters on them, which is a bit of a shame, I think.
I agree, if that's the way you end up going. Commands are the easier bits to convert.
Yeah.
Because all you do is you whack a flag on the side of the warrior. I mean, this flag here, what I would do, because the way he's standing, it looks to me like the flag is off to his left, and then the spear, and then the flag is coming over his head. So it won't look quite right if it's on a horse, because it's not going to look like it's trailing behind the horse. So you'd obviously have to do a little bit of tweaking to I suppose, slice the spear at some point, twist it and pin it to make it so the banner's trailing. But
you could have him you could have him riding kind of side saddle, so he's facing, like Gamling kind of is. Imagine you look at him straight.
That's quite a good idea. Yeah, that's a very good idea, actually. Yeah, so he's looking. Got a Gamling right here.
But I think you can convert them. The cloaks are always the nightmarish things, but it feels like you'd be able to put that arm onto one of the riders, right?
It does. That's exactly what I was thinking. It looks like that should work. If not with a little bit of green stuffing. I mean, that's the nice thing about cloaks is that you can hide joins, particularly where you're joining the arm to the torso. Yeah. The other thing I thought was that captain here actually looks very, very. It looks like he'd be great on a horse. If you take the legs out of the equation, take the torso, that's a sort of charging pose. If ever I saw him, he's axe thrust forward, staring over the head of the horse. That looks like conversion fodder to me.
He looks very much like one of the old Sons of Ale. I just picked up my phone to search for a picture and then realised I must never ever touch my phone.
No, afraid not. It's locked there forever now.
Was he in Free Peoples? There's a son. I think I might be misremembering because I haven't seen one in years. But I think there was a Sons of Ale model that looked almost exactly like him on a horsey. The one in the Free People's book's the wrong one. I think so. I think that looks like he could be charging forward.
Yeah. Can I, before we move on to the next set models, can I give you my tin hat conspiracy theory?
Yes, please.
The consensus appears to be that Rohan got a bit of a nerf in this edition. I think that's a pretty fair thing to say. My tin hat conspiracy theory is that was on purpose, because if they both had strong rules and the most modern range, it would just be Rohan every game, every table. And they're like, well, look, now the hobbyists will love to play them because they're great to paint, but we can't have them doing well as well. What do you think?
My straw hat theory. I don't think that's a thing. But if anything, doesn't the history of GW show us that we're going to make the new models better so people buy them? It
does.
Really
so if anything, it would have been quite a benevolent conspiracy if it was one.
Yeah, it's a strange thing for them to say, well, we don't want too many people to buy these. What do you think? What do you think of the command figures? As a Mr. Rohan?
Gorgeous. The captain, I think it would be the one that was the most controversial, because from that angle, he looks a bit chunky, and I was expecting to see, it's Age of Sigmar sort of comments. It's going from true scale to heroic scale. We got that with Angry Santa, and we got that with a few years ago back now, the Easterling what are these thing guys with the big muscles, the hench.
Oh yeah,
beast
Dragon Cult Acolytes.
acolytes, yeah. So that I remember that was the first time I really saw people saying they're sigmarifying MESBG. But the other two, I mean, firstly, it's actually my favorite of 3 anyway. I think it looks absolutely fantastic.
The head's really different, isn't it? That's a different Rohan beard guy. I feel like I haven't seen that kind of hairstyle on a Rohan guy. I thought
it strikes me that the designer thought to themselves, it's a captain. They're going to be older. They're going to be proven in battle. They're going to be, therefore, a bit more muscular. They're going to be, particularly, well, I mean, that makes sense as well, because they'll go up at a point in strength, and they're going to have a more luxurious head of hair. That's what went through my head.
Have you got the alternate poses on the article?
No, I don't think so.
Have you seen
helmet? There's helmet versions, isn't there?
You can make him scale mail as well.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah, so he's got a helmeted head and then a scale mail shirt as well. So they're calling it armor and heavy armor. He's got like the Erkenbrand scale mail, which I think is very clever. I mean, I don't know if that's going to be paneled. It's a completely different body. That's really cool.
That's very cool. Well, I mean, if it's built in the same way that the Warriors are, it's like it might be the front torso literally here that slots in to the cloak that has part of the legs attached to it. So I guess it's going to be this chunk here that just sort of slots in.
Well, that's great. I don't remember seeing that before.
No,
it is, but that kind of thing on a normal. It's normally helmet, weapon swap. I think we've seen like body swaps like that. Hera's cloak, maybe.
And it's foresight as well, because of course they should know that you're going to probably want to have more than one captain. Yeah. And one of the things I love, so I'll shut up after this, but the captain actually replaces one of my least favorite models ever. I really, really dislike the old captain that's executing an orc captive or an orc captive.
He's amazing.
I know. It's part of my red lines on miniatures. I don't like to have their enemies on the bases. I don't like. It's like the Gwahir nabbing up a warg. I don't. It's not my jam. Not my vibe.
Oh, I think that model's amazing.
Well, I think again, I expect I'm very much in the minority. What do you think, then? You happy with the command?
Yeah, I've sent you. I don't know if you can do things on the fly. I've been sent a nice friendly Lewis has sent me a super close up picture.
Oh, great!
And it's drop that in. Yeah, so that shows you the captain options. I mean, clearly looks like a very different captain, I think.
All right. Well, whilst we're doing that,
I think they're great. I think they're awesome. I was really surprised by these. I don't think anyone. Well, I don't know if it's anyone, because I know a lot of people did predict everything that came out. But
apparently so, yeah.
I didn't think we'd be getting plastic command. I think first ever plastic command as well. That's important. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, so this actually brings us to another point that I was going to talk to you about. There's been rumors for a long time that Games Workshop has completely dropped all resin stuff has gone. It was one of the ideas that was circulating behind irregularities in release schedules for a lot of the games that had a heavy reliance on resin stuff. And it does hold water. It does hold water. So Middle-earth's last resin announced miniature was about a year ago. It was April last year. And other games that rely heavily on resin have had a conspicuous absence. So Necromunda, all their heroes generally in resin, as well as a lot of their upgrade packs, all gone, all now in plastic. Same as, I believe I'm correct saying, same as Blood Bowl. There's just been no new resin star players. So this might be the start of a good trend of plastic commands.
And my hot take as well is that I think the Catapult Troll, Thayer Dread, and the Blister were done before the new edition. Even though they came out, I think they were done before. So I think the last Middle-earth resin models we've had produced are like Frecker, Thorn, and the Snow Troll. I might be wrong about that, but
was Frecker and Thorn, were they resin? Were they? I thought they were.
Yeah, Frecker, Thorn's resin, Punchy Santa is resin, and then the Scavengers resin.
Okay, so that
were the last ones.
Yeah.
Whether or not there will be more, I don't know.
We'll see. I guess we'll see. You can never know. Right, let's do a couple of comments over here. We've got Michael in the house who says, I'm with Alex. That's a novelty. If I heard correctly, I'm not overtly a fan of dead enemies on bases. Yes, good man, a man of
How do you
culture.
choose these comments, Alex? What's your criteria for picking the comments?
I'm going from bottom to top, but I do note that a couple in a row are going to be agreeing with me, and that's great from my perspective. When I did my Wild Chieftains for the Throne of Skulls last year, I had to scrape and remold the dead Man 5 armies. Yeah, exactly right. I agree. We've got another. Oh, look at this! If we take just this sample of 2, Damien,
Yeah.
I'm smashing it.
Yeah,
Agree. Never liked the Rohan captain more than the Orc. Oh, look at this, another Fred as well. Don't like diorama type figures for normal gameplay. I think that's it for people just giving me a big old pat on the back, though.
I apologize.
So, Darren, great news for the game. Fred captain is my favorite. I agree, Fred. I think it looks fantastic. This is going to be controversial. If Harry was here, he'd have something to say about this. Civic West Games says Adepticon should have been announcement should have been battle companies.
It should have been a lot of things, though. I don't know if we're jumping all over this, but I did a kind of comment troll in advance of this, and one of the overwhelming things is if you're not happy, it's because it should have been, and then you every person put something different.
Yeah, the thing that they really wanted to have happened,
which I think explains the problem, doesn't it? So yes, you think and Side West Games, Side K West Games is in, so we agree with you. You think it should have been battle companies, but Jeff down the road thinks it should have been the Last Alliance, and Bobby McGee thinks it should have been Mario Goblins and stuff. And
it's interesting though. I mean, I think they do sometimes make missteps, of course, and there are times when when people are, I think there's some consensus around bafflement at the decisions they've made. I'm not necessarily talking about this game specifically. I'm sure there are examples in this game, but particularly in the old world, I've seen that in the past year. The armies they've chosen to focus on and the things that they've decided to release. So it's not like the creative decisions are always going to be all equally valid to the community as a whole. But yeah, 99% of the time, everyone's going to have a different preference.
There was a couple of comments of the Space Marines of MESBG strike again, and I'm not sure quite when that happened. Like, right,
I've actually not one of those.
It must be the Plastic Heroes, I think, because it was never a thing before MESBG. So you get Theoden, and then you get AM, and then you get Durnhill. I don't know. I think it was there before the War of the Rohirrim, but then they made the War of the Rohirrim. You got to do Rohan stuff, and you're like.
I get it. Yeah, I mean, I get it. If I didn't have any interest in Rohan at all, I'd be a bit frustrated because the one thing I was going to say was that I try not to judge MESBG on its release schedule by its own precedent, because of all the games I play, it by far has the slowest and lowest number of releases. And my view is that at some point they're going to have to ramp up, or the range is just going to become comically old, and like it's going to start to. You're gonna hit the point where people have bought all the models they want to buy for no other reason. But if you set that aside for a moment and think about MESBG from its own perspective, yeah, fine, it's a less supported game than some of the other games that I play. But that's what you buy into, right? We know that. And when I bought into MESBG, I knew that. I knew it wasn't a game where you get a new release every other week. And as long as you're doing that, then
Can I give you what I thought was going to be I thought this might be my thrilling denouement, but you've kind of brought it into this, because this is a good point. Go. This is kind of rage baity, clickbaity, drive people mad type thing, right? I've got a stat for you.
Oh yeah,
obviously we don't get as much as 40k or Age of Sigmar, but from summer 24 to summer 25, so there's a 12-month period there, like nearly 6 months ago, there were more releases in that year than there have been for about 15 years. Like we've had the most, and and people go, oh, that's rubbish. I was like, you prove me wrong. And I mean new kits. I'm not counting books. I'm not counting dice. I'm not counting the starter set. I mean new kits, boxes that you can buy. There were more in those 12 months, and this is like the Angmar stuff, War of the Rohirrim, and then that weird May drop. Right, those 3 big releases. There were more kits in that year than there were released for the Battle of 5 Armies. Yeah. And I think you have to go back to 2012, the Unexpected Journey year, to find more kits. And even then, that's because in that year, I think there's about 31 in that year. But they released, you know, the 3 Young Dwarfs. They were all released individually, and now they were like, so you could buy 3. Now you get like the triple pack, so it's one thing. So do
Yeah.
you see what they've started for that SKU thing? They started selling more models together. So I actually think there are more in that year than were released for An Unexpected Journey. And people go, oh, they're slowing down. They don't support it like they used to. It's like, categorically, you prove me wrong. Find me another 12 months in the last 15 years where they've had more. And I think it's 25. It's 25 separate brand new things we had in a year. That's equivalent of 2 a month. And people are going, they're never releasing anything.
That really does surprise me. That really does surprise me. I do believe you, but it does surprise me. You know, it's a hard to believe stat, but you're a trustworthy guy.
It's because they release it in lumps.
Sorry.
They release it in lumps. They released all the Angmar stuff together, and then all the War of the Rohirrim, and then all that stuff in May. And people think, oh, they haven't released anything in 3 months. It's like, yeah, but and you count them. You can go and count them. And then alongside that, 8 books, 3 sets of dice, a starter set. That's on top of that.
So personally, I think you'd have to be you'd have to be quite far down the confirmation bias rabbit hole to think that they've slowed down or aren't releasing things for the game. I think the only valid question is whether they've sped up enough. But again, I come to that with my own baggage, right? Because I come to that from, again, with my, I'm such a glutton for new plastic stuff. So I'm like, if they don't support the game with and get to commit to essentially release new kits to replace everything they're currently selling, then at some point people will give up the game. But I could be just completely off my fucking rocker about that. I might not be right at all. I'm one man and I've not asked anyone else to validate that opinion. So that's just what I think. But
people want it, but it's just insane to think how fast it will happen. You know what I mean? It's ludicrous to think that they're gonna some of the things I've read of what should have been last night.
Yeah.
Like, you know, literally 8 things. Like it's hilarious. It was like a supplement, a book, new expansions for a different faculty, a different way of playing the game altogether. So what in the last 15 years has given you the slightest reason to think?
So this again, I think comes back to the point: are you comparing progress to Middle Earth as to Middle Earth or to, so like if you look at Legion, for example, every year they have something called Ministravaganza, which is a big update on the range and things like that. And it's only it's the biggest, but it's only one of these sort of release previews they do. And that is exactly the kind of thing you get. You might get a whole new faction, and then every other faction will get a few kits as well. Granted, they only have 4 factions. So, and that's got to the point where they've basically refreshed the entire range within a decade, which is great and amazing. But like I said, I've resigned myself to the fact that I've signed into a game that isn't that is, and I've made my peace with that to a certain extent. And as long as I've done that, then it's easier to acknowledge that things are accelerating. I don't think you can rationally make the point that they're not accelerating. The relaunch box, which was only just over a year ago, or year and 4 months ago, whatever it was, year and 3 months, that was the first time, at least in a long time, maybe since the first ever, the first run of launch boxes when the films came out, that's had all new miniatures in. I mean, it was certainly in my campaign this game, there's never been a launch box with all new miniatures in.
Yeah, so you had the three boxes for the 3 films. They were all new. Then Mines and Moria had the new Fellowship of the Old Goblins, and then Escape from Goblin Town in 2012. That was all new miniatures.
All new, yeah.
But then the 2 MESBG ones, Battle for Osgiliath and Pelennor, didn't.
So 2012. So from 2012 to 2025, 24, yeah. 2012 to 24, 12 years, there was no starter set that had all new miniatures in. In fact, the 2 that you referred to, Pelennor and Osgiliath, were quite the opposite. They had new heroes, but then they both had the old troll and they both had the old warriors on both sides. So that is a real step up. It's a real step up.
Sure.
And then since then, we've had quite a lot of stuff, I think. Like genuinely, we've had stuff for new models for the film, and you might not like that because you don't like the film or you don't like the models, whatever. But they are there. But I was worried, and I was a real naysayer, and you know this. I'm a cynical enough guy, and there are times when I'm pissed off with what Games Workshop's doing, and I'm just like, well, fuck this. There have been times when I've been like, am I patient enough basically to play this game? So I'm not someone that comes to this just you know, ready to see the positive and everything. I'm ready to see the negative and stuff. And when the new box came out and the film came out, I thought, and I was ready to tell people my view, that this is going to be it for the next year and a half or 2 years. That all they're going to be doing is drip feeding us things from War of the Rohirrim. And if you're not particularly interested, well, great. The whole game is basically on standstill for you. And I was dead wrong about that, you know, because there's been a whole range of stuff: big monsters, little heroes, everything in between.
Yeah.
I'm a moron. It's the gist of that.
Well, I don't think that means you're a moron at all. But it's more just the it's just the expectation management for me. It's like I'd love to see more stuff, but you have to go, well, what's likely to happen in our game? I don't think it's that different. What did Kill Team get yesterday? They got like was it Kill Team or Underworld or something? You know, you get like here's your whatever. It's like cool, and then you sort of move on. And I don't know, are they going nuts that there's not more Kill Team stuff? We're not 40K and we're not Age of Sigmar.
No, so I mean, there's a balance. Like I said, don't get me wrong. I want more stuff. I want there to be more things. I know that I'm going to be frustrated again as soon as there's a lull. But today I'm happy. Today I'm very, very happy.
What else, mate? That people are happy. I did this comment troll, right? And genuinely, for the and I looked through the 3 big groups. There's nothing about it on Rocks. I found that really interesting. There's not a single thread about it. It's like
no, nor in the Australian group either. They just haven't bothered with it.
It's like we'll talk about it here and we'll talk about it here, maybe. I don't know. But there was a lot of, I think, kind of well-natured finally, which I think is fine. And and there was a lot of people saying, I really, really like that. You know, they're awesome. These look incredible. And that was most of it. And then there's last time I checked, there's on the GVHL post there were 43 comments, and I think most of them were positive, but 8 of those were from the same person. And so it was like, hang on, that's not these aren't 8 negative comments. You know, and that's not like, you know, that's not the roots off them. I think if you look at how many comments, it'll say 67 or whatever, because they've all jumped.
I have a feeling, Damien, sorry to interrupt. I have a feeling that this person you're referring to, I seem to have noticed that they typed out quite a long comment and then copied and pasted it to the same thread in multiple different groups as well.
That is correct, Alex.
Yeah. Yeah, thought it might be. In fact, I might. Does this comment? Does this ring true to you? Is this the commenter we're referring to?
I'm glad you did that, because my own rule is I'm happy to read comments that I've posted publicly, but I wouldn't share their names when they're not here to defend themselves. So I'm glad. I'm genuinely glad you've kind of muted them there. But yeah, that's absolutely one of them. My highlight was I think this is gorgeous. Sad to see that Games Workshop will keep not giving the proper support and expansions and growth that the game has needed desperately for quite a long time, and instead keeps giving us stuff like this. If you're not going to release new models, at least resculpt older models that desperately need it from factions that desperately need it, not the obvious ones that everyone knew were eventually going to be released.
Don't be too obvious.
That's underneath New Riders of Rohan. Like,
is he calling Games Workshop basic?
I don't know what if you're not going to release new models, at least resculpt older models that desperately need it.
like the Riders of Rohan.
Yeah.
That's
before that reveal yesterday. You do a pointless thing. Everyone picks. Everyone, you know, give us your top 5, right? We could play it in here. What would your top 5 be? The top 5 new plastic warrior kits.
All right, everyone join in chat as well. What's your top 5? Mine. Are we discounting Riders of Rohan now? No,
we're not. We're saying yesterday before.
Okay, yesterday. Riders of Rohan absolutely top. I expect other people, and then Men of Gondor, Orcs of Mordor. Warriors of Isengard, Uruk-hai Warriors, probably Uruk-hai Scouts as well. Or actually, no, if I'm doing Warriors, the 5th would be an elf, probably Rivendell Elves, because they need it.
Congratulations, you've got 4 of the 5, and I think the 5th's a variable. It goes Riders of Rohan, and then it probably goes Elves, Númenóreans, Mordor Orcs, and then something else. Probably your personal way. And I would have, you know, in your pointless, it's going to be Riders of Rohan, and then I think it's going to be Last Alliance.
And for sure.
It's going to kind of percolate out. It's like, Rise Rohan is one. It's the one that everyone wanted for a year, and they've given it to you. And they go, no, I didn't want it. So you can resell old models.
because everyone wanted it so much. Now we don't. You shouldn't give us what we want. You shouldn't try to tell us toys.
Not the obvious ones that everyone knew were going to be released. Don't give us the obvious model. These are real comments from a real human today. Don't give us the obvious.
I think it's the same commenter. So can I actually take us back in the Wayback Machine very briefly? So I've got a few of these to do, but this, I believe, is the same person. And this comment was under the announcement for the stream. So this is when games work. If you recall, last week, GW announced there'd be a stream, but they left MESBG off, and then they added them in after people flagged, where's the MESBG? And I think Adam Troke went on Facebook and said, don't worry, guys, they're going to be there. And then they were added in. So this commenter said, I wouldn't raise my hopes, to be honest. It's GW we're talking about, and MESBG is the game they care about the least, since it's not their big money cow. Either it's going to be a diorama, a release of an old model that hasn't seen the light of day in quite some time, or both. At best, if we are lucky, at best, we're going to get a new supplement, but a mare one. But yeah, seeing as they announced it after this late, I don't think it's going to be something good. I'm betting they kind of forced to show something, but not because they had something, excuse me. So yeah, I wouldn't raise my hopes. So they thought the very best they were going to get was a new supplement and maybe a diorama or an old release.
Okay, it's a mess supplement.
And then what they said instead, sorry?
Don't forget, it's not a good supplement.
Exactly, a mess supplement.
Yeah.
And then they said, what a big surprise, totally didn't expect this. Great thing, my expectations were non-zero. Didn't expect more or less. Objectively, you did. As a matter of historical record, you were expected a lot less than you got. You might not have personally wanted the things you got, but you, as a matter of record, wanted less than you got. Don't go rewriting history because it's on the internet, and what's on the internet is there forever. So let's just try and at least have a sane conversation about the plastic toys we may or may not buy. I think that's the baseline expectation we have.
But also, why not be what you know me? I'm a pretty positive person. Why not just be what the best will be an awful supplement? It's like what have you got to base that on? What possibly in the last 10 years of MESBG would make you think it's like surely the best will be quite a pretty diorama you didn't want. That's the worst case scenario, isn't it? It's still a nice diorama, and the supplements are quite nice. It's a nice supplement, or a plastic warrior, a new plastic warrior that I'm not interested in. That's the worst case scenario, isn't it? Not a crap supplement. Like
I know. Well, let's. I'm going to very briefly do a few comments, if that's okay.
That's so okay. I'm so on board with that.
So we've got some more suggestions for the top 5. Rangers of Mordor, not as old, but I think they're awful models. Rangers of Mordor, Rangers of Gondor. Sorry, what about?
Yeah, they would be good. Yeah.
Yeah. Alex and Damien dunking on Facebook Key Warriors, the show. That's what we're here for. Michael again, where there are linked FT
foot and mounted.
Oh, sorry, foot and mounted warrior. Bloody hell! Yeah. Do you think they should try and release them at the same time possible? That is I think that's a genuinely good point, and I think that's what's caused some ire. And now I will. This is one point where I'll say, I get it. I really wanted to have been working on Rohan over the past year or so, and I did my foot warriors, so it actually hasn't really mattered, to be honest. Being honest with myself, but I really wanted to do my mounted list, but I wouldn't do that, knowing that at some point new mounted warriors are coming. I refused to spend time painting the old ones until the new ones came out. And so in an ideal world, I do think it would be, even if the foot release kind of goes back, it would be very nice to get both kits at the same time. That would be a good way for them to do it.
The answer is an obvious yes, isn't it? Would it be good to release them together where possible? It's yes. But I think it's the where possible thing, because it's like it will take twice as long. So it obviously takes twice as long to do 2 kits. So it's what's better to do? Do the 2 kits and wait, or release one and then have the other one? There was a conspiracy I read that was quite exciting. That was that these came out now because the War of the Rohirrim was a financial disaster, and so they kept them back. And I was like, I don't know how it makes sense. That was literally what I was like. Well, these should have come out a year ago, and they would have done if the film had been a success. But they've been held back. Like, what? Why? How logistically or financially does that make any sense?
How does that help them?
But that film bombed, so we're not selling them. We'll do it in a year. What?
No, I don't understand. And also, I mean, the hilarious thing about MESBGers generally is, we get this, and I'm sure we'll touch on this shortly, this landmark announcement of a new film that, for most Tolkien nerds, that'd be, oh my God, we're going to, whether for better or for worse, we're going to explore a new part of Tolkien lore. In this case, I accept a divisive choice in terms of what they're covering, but the fact is that they're doing this new thing. It's a huge piece of news, and I love watching Middle Earthers say, "Great, what's that mean for the game?" Genuinely love it. That's not. It's like
that's positive.
We measure, or at least we judge how successful the announcement of this giant hundreds of millions of dollars piece of global media will be by whether or not it's going to have a positive impact on our toy soldiers. I think it's wonderful. Wonderful sign of the passion that we have for the game.
No, sure. I did see one comment which I really wasn't expecting. There's only one person who said, "I like the old riders better."
I saw that, and I thought, I'm sorry, I thought, no, you fucking didn't. No, you didn't. No, you don't pretend that is bullshit, because they're not. Taste is in the eye of the beholder. The customer is always right about master taste, unless you're a fuckhead and you're just bullshitting for clout on the internet. That I don't believe you. I don't believe you. Sorry, Damien, carry on.
I don't feel like I felt as strongly, but I was more. I was more the kind of, really.
I don't believe it. I don't believe that's true.
How? Like,
no. They don't. The old ones, great for the time, but they're so upright in the saddle. Even if you get rid of the technical advancements we've had. And I've seen interesting comments that I don't agree with, but interesting comments about the fact that, that some people said that the new Warriors, they're almost too finely detailed. Like they're almost too sharp. I took that to be equivalent to when they shot The Hobbit in like 60 FPS or whatever it was, and it gave them sort of an uncanny valley kind of feel. But you can't believe that the posing is now done worse than it was.
I find that fascinating, because I reckon it could. I don't even remember who it was. It could just be a troll trying to get good, but it could be true. Like every time something comes out, someone goes, "Oh, whenever there's a model, I go, I think that's awesome. I think that's crap." It's like, wow, we're looking at the same thing. We're looking at the same pixels, and you think that's awesome, and I think it's awful. So maybe they did.
No, they didn't. No, they didn't. No. So
metals and stuff, don't you? Like some people will say, "Oh, I prefer these plastic Eric Scouts. I prefer them to the metal ones." You can't. The metal ones are better, like, obviously. But then some people will. I don't know. I don't. I think the new ones are obviously phenomenally better because they're incredible. You can have 4 with throwing spears. We picked up on that as well. Not that you can have 4 with throwing spears, but so the ones with the hand weapons can also have throwing spears. So you can build the kit as 4 throwing spears and 2 archers if you want. That's pretty
cool. I'm sorry, just interesting comments here. Snowy says a valid crash out, Alex. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Kim says, and that kid is successful rage baiting. Quite cool.
He got you, man.
And Seth says, I just got done painting the old riders, and the whole time I wished they were new sculpts because the new models and new ones look so bad. The old ones look so bad now. Yeah, that contrast really highlighted their shortcomings. But thank you, because for people like you who went and painted the old ones, you've obviously the cosmic engine has reared to life. So Eric, really wonderful guy who has been working for the past year on some beautifully converted Riders of Rohan using the new warrior sculpts, making them look really organic.
You posted them on your page, right?
He did post them on the page. Yeah, he did. Yeah, they look fantastic. He's put dozens and dozens and dozens of hours into that, only for Games Workshop to go but that's the rule, right? As soon as you convert a model, Games Workshop will release an official version of that model. So he's done us all a real solid there.
He gets 12 of those, and he buys 2 boxes of new ones. He's got 24 unique ones. That's awesome.
Should we have a look at some more contradictory comments?
Sure.
So this is the second one. It's not quite as dramatic. No, this is just punch down. Why not? So this was a comment. This was a comment on the stream announcement again. So this is from a week or so back. It says, let's be optimistic. It's the 25th anniversary of the game launch this year, and besides a made to order, we've had nothing. Surely we will get something I'm betting on a Boromir at least, but hopefully more. So hopefully then more than a Boromir, which objectively speaking, we got. Just in terms of numerics. And then they said, just Rohan, factually inaccurate. 25th anniversary fellowship. Wow. Now I get there's a smiley laughy face there. This is probably in good humor. But the point remains, there isn't just Rohan, is there? Because if we bring the thing back up, we also have some
look at these.
Some endings.
Look at these.
Now, a lot of people have pointed out you can't presently take the banner, but
or the horn.
But someone commented on the Warhammer pages thread about that, and the Warhammer page responded and said, "We'll expect new rules when they come out."
Yeah,
I'm sure that was pretty obvious to everyone, except for those people who are commenting, "Oh, you can't even use them." You will be able to use them. And then we also have an alternative build to make the Oathmaker. Now, here's a question for you. Do you prefer this one to the old one, or is the old one better?
They're very similar, aren't they? I think that is a piece of structural incredibleness, but change those two words to two better words. That's the captain model. Go and look at that. That's the captain model. That's incredible. And he's got, I was having a look at him. Look, his chest bit is different, and his loincloth bit is different.
So he's got fur down there.
I think it's just
different arrangement, flashes and stuff. Sorry,
it's just the legs. I think. What a cool idea! What a cool idea! Good. Him in that and have him really good. And you can currently buy him. It's like buy him now, or don't. He's 20.
And the current one is not even that old. The current one is quite a nice model.
Yeah, he's Warren Rohan here, so he's probably about 7 years old. It's one of those things that doesn't sound very old, but he is quite old. But 7 years old. True. But he's 20 quid at the moment, and I reckon what that box is going to be, I reckon about 25 quid. So he's going to drop in price to about 6.
Interesting prediction. I'm going to bet 30 quid on that box. 28.50. 28.50 is my prediction.
You know the. Hang on, how much is the Olwyn, Leaf, and Freylaf? Isn't that about 30 quid? Very good question. That's about 30 quid, I think, and that's 6 heroes, including 3 mounts. Yeah, it's a bargain. It's an absolute incredible bargain. Have a look. I can't remember the exact.
Yeah.
It's dirt. Like relative.
Why can I find the Warcom page, but not the actual Warhammer page? There they are. Oh, it's done that weird Games Workshop store thing where it's defaulted to dollars for me. I don't know why it does that seem to all the time. There you go.
This is drama. This is exciting drama.
I know. Everyone's just watching two people sort of browse on the internet. £32.50. Fair play. Fair play, actually. That's not bad at all. That is not bad at all.
Incredible deal. And so bear in mind, that's 3 foot models and 3 mounted models. So
yeah, no.
That's not going to be. That's going to be 20 quid, isn't it?
20. I doubt we'll go less than 25. But you're right. You're absolutely right. It's not going to be 30 quid if that's 30 quid. Yeah, fair play, mate. Fair play.
You know what else about these guys? Because these are for me. This is the whole thing. I should be angry. I should be super angry because I don't want the Rise of Rohan, so I should be raging, right? They're not for me. I've got 30 painted. I've got no interest in them. I'm very excited for the game and excited for people who want them. But this is the most appealing bit for me because I've painted up all the evil War of the Rohirrim stuff, and I wasn't expecting this, so I'm going to get this.
So that is very nice, actually. So we've got. I think you're not alone here. So Woody says incredibly excited for the Hill Tribesman stuff. Look fantastic. Yeah. Been painting up a snow troll list the last few days. Got a ton of troops to join them. So that it is quite nice because it's brand new as well. You're not replacing anything. You're not like, oh, I wish I hadn't painted the old versions. It's just new stuff to add into your army, and that is really cool.
And also, this is low key, potentially the most exciting release because we don't have a banner and we don't have a hornblower, and they're releasing new models that will put rules in. So that means you can't get too excited. But if they do Rivendell elves or they do Numenorians, they are clearly willing to make a Numenorian command and FAQ the banner back in. Yeah. That doesn't mean it's going to happen tomorrow, this month, this year, but clearly some of those missing bits can come back if they, that Gil Galad missing his horse, missing his shield, as and when they ever decide to revisit it and make him, I think he'll get his stuff back.
Legit, a very good point, because I think a valid point, certainly for me, the new format of the the supplements isn't for me, and I find it is for a lot of people. But I love the stuff that's in there. I miss the stuff that's not in there. I don't need new lists, but I did quite like something that expanded the rules a little bit. And I yeah, a few new lists. You know, that I think that'd be really cool. And so I was worried that, you know, it's going to stay static. But actually, you know, if I would be very, very happy if every time they or you know, sometimes they release new kit, a couple of new options come in the box, and so they add those options into the
it is strange. And I think that, and I don't go to enough tournaments to care, like genuinely, because I don't play enough. But I get it. I get that people who go to lots of tournaments would care. So I'm allowed not to care, but also understand why people would be upset about that. And it is now, by the sounds of this journal, there's no rules in it. So that's
no. I think it's the same as the last two. Yeah,
that's 3. Yeah. So it's suddenly like, oh, okay, so this is interesting. Do you know what I mean? It's like okay, there's no rules in War of the Rohirrim because they're in the book. Okay, there's no rules in the Shelob one because it's just Shelob. Okay, and it's like, okay, so I don't know, where are the rules? Where do they come from? What is next for the game in that regard?
And particularly the way that list building works now, a few comments I've seen, which I agree with, is the difficulty is if you don't add new lists, then the shine's going to wear off eventually, particularly if this is sort of like 6 years of this edition. And I want this edition to last a long time. I really don't want to be in a 40k 3-year release cycle kind of deal. I like editions that are built to last, are designed to last, and that you can get to grips with and you can get familiar with and you get a long time to enjoy. But there's going to have to be some point. But we don't know what the plan is for the future. I mean, I wonder whether they'll go to a version more akin to so there are, like if you look at actually I can't think if Blood Bowl, it doesn't work like that. Because in Blood Bowl they've got Spike magazine, which adds new rules into the game, which I suppose is like our supplements. So I can't actually think of another Games Workshop game now that I say it that doesn't add rules in with periodically with supplements.
I think this is kind of unique, and it's definitely unique. Middle Earth has always added stuff. It's always added profiles.
Yeah.
It's a different time. And just where I am in my hobby, it literally doesn't bother me because I don't play enough. But I totally sympathise with people going to a tournament every month and wanting to see things change up.
Yeah, for sure.
What do you think about the supplement, though? We haven't talked about supplement, right? Is that cool?
I'm gonna just give you a big old pat on the back now. The magazine that you produce does this job. It's got hobby content and commentary, and I prefer to have that kind of thing from an independent source than from someone who's trying to sell me something. So
I am trying to sell you something.
Well, you're trying to sell me your magazine, but you know what I mean. You're not trying to sell me toys, like other things that they've got a vested interest. If they're going to talk about the game in some way, they've got a vested interest in doing so in a particular way. So it's great. I'm not averse to them. I'm not hostile to them. I've never seen my way to buying them yet. I probably will get this one because one of the things that was in the Warcom article, I can scroll to it, is hobby guides and advice, including tips for turning the Rohan house kits into mighty settlements and burned out wreckage. That is cool, but there are plenty of guides on the internet to do that already.
The only thing I was worried about with that one is there's a burned out wreckage thing in the War of the Rohirrim one. In this one, there's not the building that one. Yeah, there's a guide to building burning Rohan buildings. It's actually it's a guide that was in White Dwarf, but it's still good. Like the hobby content in these is great.
I know, but we don't need to pay for it again, do we?
So I don't know what that one is. The Rabid Mummock conversion guide's great. The Dunlending camp's great, and then it's the same with the Shelob one. The hobby content in there is really good, really really good, and it feels like old White Dwarfs, but it's just missing the profiles. It's just missing a few bits.
But they're not too expensive. What are they, 15 quid or so? Those books?
Yeah, they're cheap. And they are really nice, and the scenarios are great. I'm a bit curious about what this one's going to be like. What does it say? Does it say the greatest hits of Rohan, Two Towers, and Return of the King? Like 11 scenarios. You're going to have you normally have 2 for the Fords of Eisen, and then you have Ambush at Night, and then you're going to have all of Helm's Deep, or is it just you're going to have a Deeping Wall? You won't have a Deeping Wall scenario, right? Because it doesn't include Rohan. So you can't have all of Helm's Deep, and you won't have all of the Battle of Helena. You'll have like the Ride of the Rohirrim, but you won't have the Siege of Gondor.
It's odd. It's
strange.
Odd. Sorry, just I don't quite follow this one. So Simon says there is no way this edition lasts 6 years if Hunt for Gollum comes out on December 27. There will surely be a tie-in new box and rulebook at that point. So 20 months away from now. I would be really surprised if we just assume that triggers a new edition. I mean, Snowy replies and says a Skillith box didn't cause a new edition, just an updated rulebook. I think we'll get something similar.
I think that's it. I think it's 1.5 for the Hunt, because I think they'll get the Hunt for Gollum, and I think they'll get the Shadow of the Past, because they're Warner Brothers films, like War of the Rohirrim. So
yeah.
I don't know the intricacies, but it feels like they've got that already if they want it. So I think the Hunt for Gollum will come out. I think you'll get a box set, and I think there'll be a rule book, but it will be 1.5. And that box set, I mean, I don't know what they're going to do with Hunt for Gollum, but imagine a box set with Aragorn, Gandalf, Gollum, and some new orcs. Like, everyone buys that, and it's got a rule book with the FAQs built into it. Like, I think, I don't think full new edition, but I think that's what I'd be aiming for. Yeah,
that sounds good to me. Should we do one last contradictory comment?
This is your new favorite thing, isn't it?
So this person, this is actually in this is actually
tomorrow.
So this is actually in a chat. So this is a friend of mine, and I don't want to embarrass them, so I'm going to refer to them. I'll refer to them as Mr. J. McCorkadale. And if that's too obvious, then it would just be John M. So they said new riders when, and then when new riders were announced, said it's taking too long. Don't give a fuck. That's just like, so. But you wanted it so badly.
Not serious though. He's not serious there, surely.
Oh, I don't think even John knows whether or not he's being serious.
He's too far down the John rabbit hole to know what he wants. I think
it's true. I mean, he that is that. I mean, I've seen people legitimately say I've lost interest. There's the delay comments are split into two camps. There's those that's like it's taking too long, but thank God they're here, and they're taking too long. You've missed a chance. I must admit, I find it a little bit difficult to believe that someone who's been really wanting it, take them at face value, completely believe that you could have had the hype for the new edition, like, yeah, Rohan, yeah. And then it's like, you're fine, like the hype has dissipated. That happens. But it's not necessarily a permanent state of affairs. If you're a true Rohan,
you got to paint the foot ones first as well. I'm not having. I know they're not out yet, so it is a long time. Let's say they come out in 2 months. It's not 15 months because you needed your 2 months, 3 months to paint your foot ones first. I think. I
agree. I mean, I promise I've painted my foot once, but I did it in a sort of this is how they fucking get. Sorry, this is how they get you, because of the way that the lists are split up now. I feel compelled to paint my miniatures toward a specific list. So it's like I'm doing Men of the West. I'll have to do them on the Morannon style plains bases and with that kind of weathering on, because they're going to be in a Men of the West list. They're going to be alongside. They've got to match the Gondorians in the same list. That's how my brain works. So I've got my Men of the West, Gondorians and Warriors of Rohan, but now I'm like, but I really want to do a Pelennor list. So I'm going to paint I'm starting from square one. I'm going to paint the warriors on foot again. I can't use my brain mind won't let me use the Men of the West ones for the Pelennor.
I don't think we can expect Games Workshop to factor in your OCD into their release schedule.
Yes, we fucking can.
God, you faced them wrong. Yes, you can.
What are they there for then? Right. I wonder whether we have a quick look at my survey, because we've had 108 responses in.
108 responses.
108 responses, yeah. And there's only been up for an hour, which is pretty good. So we're going to stop sharing that screen, and then we're going to share a different screen. And I'm going to try not to click on my porn.
I was very impressed when you put this together. This was some strong research to gather.
Thank you. Well, since this was your idea. You invited me onto my own stream, and I'm very glad you did.
And write a survey.
So here's the first question. So the first question is, what was your overall emotional reaction to the announcements? Between 1 and 10, 1 is blind rage, 10 is hitherto unimagined levels of euphoria. So one person was in blind rage. No one was just, it probably was John. No, but then that might not have been a reaction specifically to this. It could have just been his usual state of affairs. And we had 10 people who were experiencing hitherto unimagined levels of euphoria. I really hope that their partners and children aren't aware that this is the happiest they've ever been in their life. But the vast majority of people are hovering around 7 and 8. That's where the majority of people are. And, and an interesting thing is,
I misread that. I thought that was around 6, 7.
I'm not doing it.
What?
No, I'm not doing it. You can't get me like that. The interesting thing is that doesn't tally, in my view, with what the impression you get from the comments. The impression you get from the comments, you'd expect a much more polarized, I think, set of figures.
Yeah. Well, I think the same people comment, so the number of comments doesn't reflect the number of people.
No, I agree with that completely. So that's that. Now, I wanted to try and gauge how that matched expectations, and we have a much broader range of expectations. And so, interestingly, it does seem like Games Workshop had beaten expectations, at least, even if the expectations were quite low, averaging around 5 stars. And bear in mind, 1 was I was literally bursting with apathy, and 10 was my excitement manifested physically from at least 2 bodily orifices. So, someone, one person burst with apathy. I hope they're okay. No, sorry, 5 people did. And 3 people excreted from at least 2 bodily orifices. 1 wasn't enough to get you into there.
You can burst from apathy.
Sorry?
Do you think you can burst from apathy? I just sort of think you wouldn't care. Like, you wouldn't care.
We'd never know, would we? Because I think it's like icicle stabbing. By the time the person's burst, you don't know that it's the apathy that did it.
It could have been the chronic stomach condition. But...
I mean, Damien, where would you put yourself on here? These 2 ratings. Where would you put yourself on expectation?
I think because I'm an excitable boy who likes new toys. I think I went for 9 for the hype. I was very excited. No, okay. the first one. It wasn't the first one. What was the first one?
Was so I put it in wrong order basically. First one is where you landed after. What was your emotional reaction to the stream?
I think I put an 8. I was an 8 or a 9 for those 2.
9.
I did.
I went 8 as well. Yeah, I think 8 felt about right. And where were you on hype?
I don't know. I was like, I'll look forward to it and I'll enjoy whatever it is, which I think is kind of like 4, but also kind of like 10. I was like very, very excited with no risk of being disappointed. That's how I am.
Quite a nice place to be.
Yeah, well, it is. You don't get angry that way.
No.
And I'm not going to comment, oh, it'll be nothing, it'll be rubbish. I'm just like, I'm interested to see what it is. And I was like, oh, it's that. That's cool. And then I moved on with my life. Like,
I didn't.
That guy who liked the old Rise of Rohan was furious because his favourite models were being removed.
I hope they're not in the stream. And actually, I hope they are. They need to know how they've fucked up. So describe your emotions. Harder to aggregate this when I gave them another option. Of course, there's plenty of others in there. The runaway. Oh, I do. Yeah, I do.
You know, all those ones with 1 on.
Yeah.
One of them's me.
Oh, okay. You were either comfortably numb, or you had itchy bollocks, or you were indifferent, or do you know that word? Cartol.
I reckon that's Frederick Schultz because he's German.
Likely.
Yeah.
I was hoping if you pronounced it perfectly, I'd assume that was you. Bemused, apoplectic with indifference. I'm not sure you can be. No, actually, I bet you. Yes, you could be. You're like I wanted it to feel alive, and I feel so little that has caused me to rage. That's a really interesting state of affairs. Pleased for the direction of I don't know what that was. Hopeful they do more and of. Yep. Is that it? That sounds like a fun person. Nostalgic and content that. Stressed about all the paint here. That might be you because you do. We'll show some pics at the moment in a moment of you stretching yourself, not literally, but Stressed about all the painting, aroused, uncaring, apathetic, not surprised really. I mean, I'm good. Were you? You definitely weren't apoplectic with indifference, though.
It's not me, is it?
I think you were nostalgic and content that you, or stressed with paint here.
I'm afraid, Alex. I was
No.
around.
Damn!
Yeah, that was me, man.
Shit.
But I had 2 screens going during the stream, so.
Okay, well, there we go. I mean, like I said, the runaway winner was happy. I'm very glad that you were aroused. Here's what people's purchasing intentions based off the announcements. Interestingly, I think the most interesting one is the red one. So nearly 30% of people were not previously interested in buying any Rohan stuff, but are being won over by the announcement. That interests me because I thought, living in my own little head, I thought everyone would have been at least somewhat interested in buying some Rohan stuff.
Well, it does mean 75% of your respondees want to buy the Riders of Rohan.
It's
which is strange because I thought we needed them to release things from factions that
weren't so obvious.
I thought, but that's a huge hit. That's a huge hit. 75% of the people want to buy the Rise of Rohan.
I mean, another one that interests me. 4 people were wanting this but were let down. One of them is blatantly the guy that is wrong about thinking that the new ones don't look as good as the old ones. There's 3 others. I mean, he could have just made 4 accounts to try and inflate that statistic. And then the last question: did you predict what was coming? 17% had the gift of foresight. 30% thought letting Grima go would have no consequences. And 54%, I think I was definitely in the orange circle. I knew they were coming. I couldn't have said with any certainty.
I think something's not right here because, as I understand it, everyone knew that these were going to be released.
Yeah, it was really obvious. It was obvious enough they shouldn't have done it.
Something is not telling here at all. I think you can have a clap for pulling together a survey tonight for 100 people. I think that's awesome. Well done.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
oh yeah, I saw this as well. Actually, it's interesting. So Snowy said that Warhammer posted because someone replied to the official Warhammer thread saying, basically, Rohan stuff so obvious, we need something else. And they replied and said it's one of their most requested kits. Now, one thing I actually thought was interesting about the Facebook reaction to the different announcements for the different games is just how well the Middle-earth one did. So
yeah,
just purely going by volume of reactions, the 40k edition got about 2,000. Now that you'd expect it to be a runaway winner.
Do you mean the posts? Are these the official posts on the
official posts on the Facebook page? We can probably get them up. And all the other games got less than 1,000. Most of them got about 500. Middle-earth got 1,000. It was the second most reacted to post. Now, I'm not pretending that means an enormous amount, but I think that's pretty good. I think that's pretty decent.
That means quite a lot. I think that means quite a lot. With those kind of numbers, that's statistically significant.
There we go. I mean, I know nothing about numbers are foreign to me.
Again, do you know how else you know that the Riders of Rohan were their most requested kit? Because for the last year, the community made it abundantly clear that the Riders of Rohan were their most requested kit.
I think every stream I've done, I've gone on about it at least once.
Everyone has. You'd be mad to not. If you were gonna do Moria Goblins in January, and you went anywhere near Facebook in January, February, you can the Moria Goblins, and you do Rise of Rohan because it was quite clear that they would have been apoplectic with rage, not indifferent, if the next one wasn't those things. You know, so it's like,
I agree. They had absolutely no choice. I definitely agree with that. They really didn't have a reasonable choice. So let's have a quick look at some of the comments. So yes, so Snowy said that one was high. Fred says whatever that word is, kartoffel is a potato salad. There you go. So someone was feeling potato salad. So Jakey says, I think people who comment tend to be negative and just want to shout about it on the internet, whereas people who are happy with it just crack on and look forward to their new charges. So interestingly, so I sometimes, I sometimes fall for it, and there was a big FAQ for the old world earlier this year. Now the old world's MESBG has some balance issues, but they are not significant, at least not like the old world has at the moment. Although even that's starting to sort of belie expectations. But the old world, there are definitely armies that are doing very good and armies that are not doing very good, to the point that there's a big community pack, there's a huge community push called Square Base Comp to supplement the poor performing armies up to, so in a 2,000 point games, Wood Elves, for example, would get up to 600 extra points, which is massive. And so that everyone,
last stream.
Sorry?
We talked about it in the last stream. I kind of suggested it for FPD. I thought it was quite fun. I thought it was quite a fun idea.
It's a great idea. It's a great idea. Although the strange thing, this is the one thing I find really interesting, is that the creators of that pack in their podcast were saying the interesting thing is 600 points is enormous, but it doesn't actually appear to be making that much of a difference. it's like throwing points at the problem isn't actually resolving it. But the point was, we were all really energized for this FAQ, and I genuinely, I was like, every day we knew it was gonna be that week, and every day I was like checking my phone. I was like, oh, is it gonna be today? I've never felt like that about an FAQ in any game ever, but it's because I'm really enjoying Old World, and I play Wood Elves, and I'm losing with them a lot. And two things happened. First is there was the FAQ was just, it was senseless. I have to say, I do genuinely think they didn't apply a particularly critical mind to the problem, because the very small tweaks they made just didn't line up with what people were experiencing on the tabletop. I don't get the sense that a huge amount of thought went into it. So that was the criticism, and I put a comment about that. I put it on Battle Campus, actually, put it on my own group, and then about 2 minutes later, I thought, what is the point? Like, I deleted it, and I thought two things. I thought, firstly, people who work on the game are in that group, and I don't actually want them to see it, because I'm overwhelmingly positive about the game. And that's not to say there shouldn't be criticism. I did drop the FAQ line an email, and I gave some feedback, and I said, this is what I'd account for. And I know they don't take unsolicited comments, so they probably just put it in the bin. But that's how I felt productive. But actually, I was just like, I just don't think that's going to make me any happier, and it's definitely not going to make the creators behind the game happier. It's just not worth anyone's time. And I said, like I said, it's really important that there are feedback mechanisms. And I think you've said this before. It's like, but there's,
we debated this on Cast It Into the Fire.
On Cast It Into the Fire, we did, yeah.
I said exactly the same, and then you argued with me.
Yeah, I did, yeah. Well, that is the format.
That was the point. It was arguing the toss, wasn't it? Like, I completely agree. It's like, criticize, be critical, fine, all you want. And on the film, there's some interesting stuff on that. Be critical, be cautious, be cynical, all that. But saying this is shit, like, that, who does that? How does that help you? I don't get what. I don't know how this unit works in Old World. Can you help me? Oh, I see your problem. I see how you can help. I don't get what.
Yeah. I think it's about forum as well. In a private setting, I would say to someone, tell them this is really stupid, but I am sensitive. I must admit, I'm sensitive to the people who make the games. Sometimes I dreamed of this is stupid. Dreamed of applying for one of the rules writing positions, pipe dream, I know. But when I was trained, of course, as a children's lawyer, and part of my job, a big part of my job, was being able to explain extremely complex concepts to children in a way that they could then understand them and use them to regulate what they're going to do. So particularly when I worked in criminal law, so for children, and explain to them why what they were doing was breaking the law. Some of them very young children as well. That's a real challenge. It's difficult to take complex legal theory and boil it down, and particularly for children who aren't living with their parents. You're advising them directly. And I thought, that doesn't tell me about rules design, but it does tell me about communicating rules to people. It tells me about not how the rules should operate, but it does tell me about how they should be presented to a broad audience. And I was like, that'd be great. And then I started looking at, started getting into the communities and things. And I was like, people just fucking hate. They really, really dislike the rules designers. There's no, where's the joy in that job if like you're excited about these ideas and things like that, and you put them out in the world, and then it's just like, you fuck this right up, haven't you? You know,
and it's not even. I know there's some of that, but even the stuff I think this is shit. I think this is, you fucked up. You got these rules wrong. That at least has some kind of. This is what I don't like about it. What I can't do there is just the kind of, this is like crap. Where next? Why do they always do this? Why don't they give us what we want? And for the people who have, I know, written the supplement or designed the models or designed the packaging and put it out and go, look at this really cool thing we've made. Look at these Rise of Rohan that 20 different people have worked on for a year because you asked us for it. And go, yeah, but they're not goblins, are they? How do you think in any way that like
it's gonna help anything? I couldn't agree more. I mean,
what you think you're putting into the world, and I do think, and this is kind of about that, you know, the point I made about the releases in the last year. I think you made a kind of big deep point. This is my big deep point, that we're in a world, a horrific world between AI and certain political figures about fake news and lies, and just lying, straight up lying about things that are objectively not the case. You know, this didn't happen. And people believe it. Yeah, well, it is. And I think it is our duty as a species to try and stand up for this. And we do it in a microcosm on wargaming. And so when you see people going, this is rubbish, they're not supporting the game, I think we have a duty to go, no, that's objectively untrue. They're supporting it better than they have supported it in the last 15 years. That's an objective fact. You could argue maybe it's not as visible. We used to have more in like 2018, 19. We used to have Warcom articles and gradual releases. But in terms of volume, they're giving you more. And so when these people shout their mouths on, go, this is rubbish, I don't support the games, they do. It's just not true. And I feel fairly strongly that we need to kind of go, there needs to be more pushback into that. I think there was a comment earlier saying, oh, I'm happy, so I don't write, you know, people who are happy don't write anything. And it's like, I think the people who are happy have a responsibility to kind of go, you're lying, mate.
Yeah, that's not actually true. Yeah.
If you not turn our Facebook page into a house of lies, don't like it. If you don't like it, cool. Yeah, you don't like that, that's wicked. But don't just lie. Don't just make stuff up, because lying isn't cool. And
this is exactly right. I mean, this is the point. So James has just said, and this is, I think, a better way of phrasing it. So genuine criticism is fine, and in most cases very valid. Criticism for the sake of being negative doesn't help anyone; just makes you look like a miserable git. I think there's something to add to that, which is that it is just about how you communicate it. So you do have to feedback, and the company should want that, and the creators should want that. They should want to hear back. And when there's real dissatisfaction, so for example, one of the big crises in the old world, to keep going back to this, and I think we've seen this to a lesser extent with like the Balrog, for example, is if the same army keeps winning, and the old world, it was much more extreme, and the same army kept on winning. Cathay was winning every single event. And what a lot of the creators were saying was, guys, this is a brand new game, relatively speaking. It's a fledgling community. It's a growing community, but we're on the ground and we're hearing that people are giving up, or the community designers are having to step in and do the job that you really do need to do, which is bring down that army. And that puts us in the firing line because people are like, well, I bought my toys, I should be able to use them. You don't have the right, basically, to police your events in these ways, and it's sucking a lot of the positive energy that you've done really well to build up. And I really, I'm quoting basically from the Squarebase podcast. And the thing I really liked about that is it was criticism, and it was valid criticism, but it was bundled in this packet of positivity. It's like, guys, you've done something amazing. You've resurrected Warhammer Fantasy, something that people didn't think would happen, and it is, from all the metrics we can gather, dramatically outperforming expectations. That you are building a community around it, you are releasing models that people weren't expecting, you're releasing rules that people are really enjoying, people are having a good time, but you risk undermining everything you've done. And if I got that feedback, that'd be a lot better than, fuck this, Games Workshop doesn't give a shit, because they do. Like, and even if the corporates don't actually give a shit about you, the creatives do. The people who are going to interact with these.
On the other side of that, you also individually need to balance. All that positive stuff you just said. Like, I love the game. I love the toys. I love this. I love everything you're doing. I don't like that game. I'm going to write about that. It's like, well, what about the 90% of the good stuff? You need to write about the 90% of the good stuff, not just the 10%. And kind of, I do that sometimes at work. Oh, this is a nightmare. It's like, oh, but actually, there's a lot of good stuff. You focus on the bad stuff. We do in every part of our lives. We go, oh, this is awful. It's like, oh, actually, I've got good leave, or it's quite local, and actually, I take for granted all the good stuff. And I don't know, that's where I am with MESBG. That it's like, the game brings me so much unadulterated joy. Even stuff like this, hanging out with you for an evening, talking with these people, it's a joy. It's a joyous boon. What?
Even hanging out with you, I can find some joy in.
Even with you, with all of your stuff. But do you know what I mean? It's like, that's a joy. So, there wasn't a banner on the Riders kit. Yeah, I'll be all right.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. I mean, so I think about. I've not said this very long, but I've been waiting for a kind of moment to say this. But I think I might have mentioned to you a while back, but not on a stream. I've been working on a little book about wargaming, and the reason I've done that is
we read books.
Oh, Jesus, please never do that again. I would say I live a reasonably different life to a lot of people, in the sense that I live alone, and I've lived alone for basically my entire adult life, and I don't plan on that changing, which is just statistically speaking a really reasonably unusual state of affairs. And most of the time, I'm pretty content with that, and sometimes I'm not. I've had mostly a very comfortable and privileged life with some tumultuous episodes, and through all those times, I've only found that my enthusiasm for this hobby has increased. I mean that very, very sincerely. There was a time a few years ago where I split my hobby time equally between sort of making music and playing games and painting miniatures. And in my head, it was always like, you should just do the music, because that's a kind of socially acceptable thing to do. That's got cool cred, and it is more likely to be something that you can integrate into a social life. And then I was like, no, you know what? But I know what my gut reaction to that is when I think that. When I try to take this hobby away from myself, I know what my gut reaction to that is. So instead, one day, I did this channel, and it had like 16 views, and then Zorp found it somehow, and he plugged it, and that gave me that was my boost. And then Harry found it, and Harry said, "Would you like to come to one of my tournaments?" And he gave me a ticket to go because he had one spare. And I'd never been to any wargaming tournament before, and so that genuinely changed the course of my life, because now so much of what I think about on a day-to-day basis, of what I do, how I spend my time, what I look forward to, the weekends that are the ones that I remember, all focus around this hobby. They all focus on this hobby, and I don't regret that for a moment. I don't care if that now, whether that's depressing or sad to some people. It's so important to me, and brings me so like so. Your tournament, 7 Stones. It is a milestone on the calendar. I think about it for such a long time, because it's so important to me.
We've got tickets. Give it a plug. We've got tickets.
We've got tickets. There's tickets. There should never be tickets available for 7 Stones.
Because
it deserves to sell out.
One space and no reserve list at the moment. Want to come?
One
2 days, doubles. You can watch sad, lonely Alex. He'll be there. He'll be happy though.
Not the right.
Because he's fine with it. He's cheery about it. It's okay. It's all he's got. Is that right?
Please, God, don't take this away from me.
No. We've got some spaces. If you want to come, bank holiday in May, second bank holiday in May. It's tons and tons of fun. We have an open day of open gaming, narrative gaming on Saturday, 2-day tournament, curries, buffets, pizzas, raffles.
And it's the only tournament that I know where people get so into the it's a spectator sport, because you've got the arena of death, right? And the last thing you do before you go for your Sunday night dinner is everyone gathers around and watches the miniatures that have survived the round 1 arena of death go into this championship arena of death, and it is always absolute carnage. I'm also doing something that I'm quite excited to do with Ben Haslam and Jay Acharya. So two very no. So this is we're going to do it on the Saturday. We're going to film on the Saturday, film or stream. I haven't decided yet, but we're doing a game where I'm a bit of a useless player, and my friend Hayden is a bit of a useless player. So Jay gets one of us, and Ben gets one of us, And the only way they can communicate with us is through a buzzer. So Hayden and I play each other, but it's essentially Jay and Ben trying to compete, but all they can do is buzz. That's all they can do. So if they think we're making a wrong move, they want us to go somewhere, they've got to try and figure out, and they're not allowed to tell us what their language is going to be. They've got to try and figure out how to communicate that with us just through a buzzer.
That sounds beautiful, and like it will become incessantly annoying very quickly.
It's going to be so annoying. It's going to be so annoying. Yeah.
Put you outside. It'll be funny.
Yeah. Anyway, all that.
Well, thank you for the plug. There are tickets. We'd love to have more people drop a message. Anyway, Alex, you were saying about the tournaments you go to.
All I was saying was I try to keep in perspective. It's a double-edged sword because it's so important to me. I'm passionate about it, and when things don't go right, it does affect me. It affects me more than most people would. If people outside the hobby would be like, why do you give? Why do you care whether you need to roll a 4 or a 5 to hit that guy, or why do you care whether that model is 6 years old or 2 years old? But it does fine. But the flip side is you also just got to keep it in perspective. This is a real joyful thing, and I would hate for us to get to a point, or for me to get to a point where I'm no longer experiencing joy in the same way because I've got sucked down the rabbit hole of always needing it to be in a certain way.
That hobby that can give that much to you, though. What a wonderful thing that is. Like,
absolutely special. Not everyone has that,
No, this is what baffled me. I feel lucky that I'm not pissed off about this stuff. I'm like, God, it must suck be doing this hobby and be that fucking angry about it. That must suck. Yeah. It's like I'm Medicel. Like, what's not to like? Like, put a fucking mead hall on your head and go to a tournament. Like, who cares what happens?
Exactly right. I agree more. And that, to be fair, that is your philosophy. And
I'm wearing models.
Even got that is very nice. That is very nice
I
indeed.
think you should make wearable models. The thing I'm trying to bring it in.
Okay, Damien. I hate that you've said that because you're now going to think that have you cut yourself on the golden hole?
I'm bleeding. Medicel. Medicel used to cut me. I don't know why, but has Medicel got knives in it? I'm bleeding.
One of the miniatures, like it's the spear.
It's down here. It's one of the dressmaking pins, I think.
It's hardcore.
I bleed for you, Alex. Yeah. We bleed blood. Anyway. You were saying, what have I stolen an idea off you or something?
Yeah, that's right. Sorry, I don't just know because mine and Chris's idea this year, or our project, it involves wearable models, but that wasn't. I don't think it's like a pathetic attempt to pander to your specific preferences.
I think that's exactly
cool. So Sam says that was one of the last things in the tale of Wormtongue's influence.
Could be Wormtail in there. Could be Wormtail.
Wormtail. Wrong body of law, my friend.
Wrong. Recently, newly updated fantasy franchise.
Yeah. There's nothing else from the announcements, I think, that we need to.
The only other thing I had from the comments that I would appreciate your thoughts on were the price, because what we also got across the thing was a couple of the traditional hilarious comments. $20 a model for the Rise of Rohan, and so $80 for 6. Then obviously very humorous, but what they could be right, but. Exactly the same thing happened with the Warriors of Rohan, and the Warriors of Rohan were the same price as the old Warriors of Rohan, which I think is that we should be cheering them. That was awesome. They released brand new, and I'm going, I don't want brand new models because they'll be priced expensive, and they were the same price. I think maybe a quid more or something. Yeah, 20 foot. So the Warriors of Rohan at the moment are the same price as Glathrim Elves, for example. Yeah.
Yep.
So by that logic, the Rise of Rohan
might just be the same price. Yeah,
I think they'll be the same price.
I mean, I agree. We have to keep in mind that the GW pricing structure is senseless. It is arbitrary and senseless. It does not. People sometimes I've seen people try to figure out what like their standard markup ratio. I genuinely believe there isn't one, and I genuinely believe sometimes there are weird, unknown factors that go into how they decide the prices. So it is not the case. I don't exactly as you say that just because a new kit. I don't believe personally that they price them based on recouping like an upfront investment in creating the molds and designing the models. Because if that were the case, then logically kits would get cheaper over time because they recoup their investment for the riders of Rohan 2 decades ago, and everything after that is
although they
is
do
just
start bundling them, right? Not much, but we have seen that with the starter sets. You could say they made their stuff back, so they chucked in Army of the Dead and Moran and Orcs into those super cheap starter sets, which were basically like 50% of the cost or something. But this is what I mean. These pricing things. That's where I feel like we have a responsibility to comment on those guys and go, but that's not what happened. Like, this isn't true though, is it? Like all the evidence, it's very nice of you to be sassy. All the evidence says that's not what will happen.
Yeah. No, with you.
I get that it's fun to be edgy, but it's like when they did it for the stream. Last time there was a stream, they just released a diorama. It's like, no, dickhead, that was 3 years ago. And since they've had, it was like last year, the stream last year, it was 3 years ago. And since then, there's been a Middle-earth stream where they released the Osculia starter set and a bunch of other stuff. It's like, why are you ignoring that? Why are you pretending that didn't happen? And why are you claiming that was last year? You're lying. Stop it.
Yeah. The funny thing about that as well is like, because I think you probably have Rob on Facebook as well, and so obviously Rob is takes on, I think, a lot of personal responsibility for the health of the games that he I don't know what his title is in the studio, but he has oversight, right, of the Middle-earth strategy battle game, if I've understood his role correctly. And when the diorama came out, he put a post on Facebook which I found quite sad. It was a bit upsetting because it was basically like, look, a lot of people worked extremely hard on this, and he'd talked, when it first went up, he talked about some of the technical work that went into creating it, which I never even didn't even cross my mind that this was a factor. He was talking about the fact that the way that some of the straps and some of the cloak was working, they had to figure out new ways of actually molding it because it didn't mold using their current understanding and technology. So they sort of pushed the boundaries to create this thing. So like that you don't not obliged to like it at all, of course not. But obviously what people were saying was like, this is just some piece of shit that just chucked out for want of something, and these morons can't get anything right, kind of thing. And so he followed up with another post, and it was basically like, it's really sad that nothing lands in at the right time. And I think the sense there was that had it been released amongst a group of other things, that it could have got a very, very different reaction. But he'd obviously taken to heart the idea that it had either been done out of carelessness or been done just to get something out. They just shat it out, when actually a huge amount of work had gone in behind the scenes to make it happen. And I'm just like, and I'm sure I didn't help. I'm sure I must have posted things like, oh, this is, because I didn't want it. I didn't want the diorama, although frankly, I regret not buying it now. It's not what I wanted at the time. But I didn't think, it just didn't stop to think about the work that had gone in to make it happen, and the people who really wanted it to succeed. And that's why now, I think we've talked about this before, I often say, I sometimes go on the comments when people are like, oh, why have Games Workshop done this? And I just say it was to annoy you personally, because that's how some people seem to think. It's like they are out to get you. They want you to be sad. They don't want you to buy it.
I think you've inadvertently dropped like the perfect sentence, because you said, that's not what I wanted at the time. And it's like, that's not what I wanted at the time doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it.
No, exactly right.
It's making everything about you, isn't it? That's not what I wanted at the time. And I go, don't do it. That's not what I wanted at the time. Cool though.
Yeah.
My favorite lie about the diorama is how much they hyped it up. Like, they didn't hype it up one little bit. It just said Middle Earth on the poster. That's all it said. There was no hype whatsoever. And so they said at this event there'll be something for Middle Earth, and there was. And then 3 years down the line, remember when they hyped it up? No, I don't.
No, I don't know.
Stop lying about it. And neither do you. You weren't there. You don't even remember it. You've just read it somewhere.
Yeah.
I just think we should stop lying.
So we've got a bit of Seven Stones intel here, just to change pace slightly. And Michael says he's been working this evening on 2 trolls and 4 great beasts of Gorgoroth. Hopefully to be seen at the upcoming Seven Stones. 2 trolls and 4 great beasts.
I know what that's for.
And presumably Michael will be going with Harry again.
Oh yes.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, Sidek West Games. I mean, that's absolutely true. He said that's why I thought the announcement, presumably referring to the diorama, should have been something broader. I think basically what happened there is that everyone, I think in hindsight thinks that. I think the management probably thought that as well. And I think my point is you can absolutely be you can. That's the point, isn't it? You know, is because it came in a bit of a drought. And no, it wasn't hyped up. You're absolutely right. But people took from the fact that Middle Earth was on there. They obviously set their own expectations very high, probably in part because there had been that specific Middle Earth stream before. I think the year before.
No, you're
was that actually after, did it?
Falling for their lies. It was
no shit.
The Middle Earth stream, the Osgiliath stream is after the one. But what you're doing is you're reading comments from people saying the last time they did a stream, they released a diorama. It's not the case.
That was what is wrong with my computer? Sorry, something very odd is happening with my computer. Oh, okay. So something has happened to my computer. I now can't touch it. So there's no way that I can verify any of the information you're giving me, but I will believe you.
Verify the information. Well, just think about the timelines, right? The diorama thing, that was I want to say April 2023, and the Osgiliath box set clearly came out in the last 3 years, right?
Did they announce the Osgiliath box set at the same time they announced the new Elrond and the banner guy? Okay, so because that's the only time they've ever done a Middle Earth stream, right?
Yeah, that was the last time Middle Earth. I think the last time Middle Earth was featured on a live stream.
Okay, so you're absolutely right. So Get Off the Road was the 29th of April 2023. That's when that was announced. So Elrond must have been, was it that summer or was it the next summer?
I don't know, but it was after that.
It wasn't. It was before. It was the 7th of August 2022.
What, the Osgiliath starter set?
No, I don't. The Middle Earth preview stream. So Elrond was 22. Oh, and Osgiliath, yeah, Battle of Osgiliath, 7th of August 2022.
It was before
You're the one. It was before. It's you spelling this information. This is scandalous. This Frederick says it, yeah, 2022.
That was before the Get Off the Road thing.
It was before, yeah. So that's what happened, and that's why that's what I thought people. That's why people said it was hyped up, and they were still wrong about it. Substantively, you're correct. There was a specific Middle Earth stream, and they announced a bunch of stuff because we got Elrond and we got and that's another problem. That's where all the Last Alliance stuff came from as well, because everyone was like, oh my god, Last Alliance is coming because we got an Elrond, right? And then there was the Osgiliath box, and that came with new heroes, etc. And then Middle Earth was in the I don't know which, there was a Adepticon or whatever, but the stream, I suppose, about 6 months later.
Warhammer Fest or Warhammer Day or something like that. I don't think
that. And it was the diorama. But so people had got in their heads, well, we had this one incredible stream, so there'll always be an incredible stream. And that's when Rob said, oh, it just never lands at the right time. And I think that's the problem, is that people have set their expectations high. So exactly as I can't remember who said it now, what the comment was, but the comment was like, oh, it wasn't broad enough. It's like, but they've learned that, right? And that's why you now don't get Middle Earth.
You don't get it. They haven't got enough.
They don't get enough streams because they're like, well, we're not going to do that again, are we? Because we can see how people responded. And that's why it's nonsense. It really hurts me when people are like, there's definitely, it's going to be a diorama again. It's like, no, they heard you. They really did hear you. Everyone did. The people who, and they heard what they needed to hear, I guess, that was an error. But they also heard, all the stuff that made them very sad. And they want to make money off you. They want you to spend as much money as you possibly, and that's that leads to plenty of shitty behavior from every corporation ever. I'm never going to say that profit incentive doesn't create very, very anti-consumer incentives. But the one thing you can say for damn sure is they want your money, and because they want your money, they don't want to piss you off. Why do you think they're going out there the way to make you sad?
It was in that very weird sort of year, 18 months, where I think probably, if that was in the April, I think the Christmas after might have been the Transparent Army of the Dead. I don't know if it was a year later, but it was something like there's very, very little, and then, oh, look at this. And it's like, you released the Transparent Army of the Dead in that stream last night. Everyone goes, these are amazing, because we've also got Rise of Rohan. When that's the only thing you get for 6 months, it pisses people off. But
Yeah.
I can only apologise for spreading the misinformation about the door lock. It's the hype thing that I don't like. They say when they hype it up, it's like they didn't hype it up in any way. There was no hype about it.
Like I said, so the points all remain valid. And that's so that's what's so sorry. Okay, so I think I must have misunderstood what he was saying, because he says now, sorry what his game says, Damien was saying about wanting something now, and Riders isn't for the game in a broader sense. People have left because of lists, and lists will get bland in 6 years. I'm sorry, I haven't understood your comment properly. I apologize.
I think he's saying, hang on, put that back up. I think I've just twigged what he was saying at the end there. He's saying that wanting something now, I said Riders isn't the thing that people want for the game in a broader sense, because they're not competitive. But I genuinely disagree with that. I think competitive people might not, but there's another fake number, I think, that are about competitive people, as in people who are really driven by the list. Take the GBet show. I think I don't know what they're at. I think there's 1,000 people in it. Maybe there's more. Like, you know, in the rankings. I don't know. But there are about 30, 40, 50 who care about that. Like, and it might be going up, but care, who want to do really, really well. And there's a bunch of other people that I know that I go to tournaments with who couldn't give a crap and will take Riders of Aomer because they want to take Riders of Aomer, and who take their third draw, and they'll try and do well with them, but they couldn't give a crap that they're not top tier. And that's sometimes the point, isn't it? And those people you don't hear from, because it's like they're going to competitive tournaments, and you go, oh, these armies aren't competitive. But there's a load of people going to the competitive tournaments who don't care that the armies aren't competitive. And that, so
I think there's something slightly different about it as well. Sorry to interrupt, but so I've never won a tournament. I podiumed for the very first time earlier in the year but it was a double, so it doesn't massively count. But I love all the competitive. I actually really enjoy the conversation about what's good and what's bad. That doesn't mean I want everything to be equally good, nor does it mean I'm going to buy the stuff that's really good. So I've been taking Men of the West. I can't remember how I got into Men. That's why I wanted to do the diorama. Now they're really good. They are really good. I know that because I've done quite well with them. That was the only time I got to the podium is with Men of the West.
Absolutely.
But sorry. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, it is, particularly since it wasn't a particularly competitive tournament either. We were the only Men of the West there, that's for sure. But they're on the table now, and I really, really genuinely can't wait to do Riders of Aomer. That's the list I want to do. That's why I've got the Aomer. So, someone might actually be in here. I sent this out to Germany as a prize, and then it got stuck in transit for ages, and then it got sent back, and it arrived back with me like a week and a half ago. So yeah, that feels too appropriate for me not to do the Aomer. But anyway, and I'm going to take them to tournaments, and I'm going to really enjoy taking them to tournaments, and I'm going to watch the videos about what kind of list breakdowns are at tournaments, and I'm going to be interested in who wins the tournament. It doesn't mean that I want to win it, or that I'm going to take a list to try and win it. I can't wait to take Rohan again. I know they're not as good as they used to be. I just can't wait to take them. It has not put me off at all. And if I want, sorry, just last point is sometimes I might be like, you know what, I'm going to really try. I'm going to try and see how high I can get in the rankings. I'm going to have a weekend, like if I go to the GP or something competitive, where I see how I can do. Well, then I'll take one of the more competitive armies. It doesn't have to be the same approach in every tournament.
On this, if I think he's saying that I think I might misinterpret this. He's saying you should release the most competitive troops so that more people can compete with them, because people are leaving the game because of the list. You might be right, and people might well be leaving the game because of the list, but I promise you, what's the most competitive warrior? Say it's Morio Goblins. I know they've just been nerfed, but say it's Morio Goblins, right? The amount of people who want pre-FAQ who are going to that event competitively, and so you could then say Morio Goblins are the best models to make. So few of them would buy them. It wouldn't be them buying them. It would be the people who love Morio Goblins who buy them. The people who are going to compete would just use their old ones because they don't care. And that number of people, even if they do buy them, that number of people is 10, 20. Whereas the number of people who will buy Riders of Rohan because they're awesome is the hundreds. And so people don't. I don't agree with that. I don't think you should sell the models that are most competitive at the time. Certainly not for this game. I just don't think that's. I don't think that's what drives the majority of their sales.
There was a we touched on this at the beginning of the stream. There's a sort of counterpoint, wasn't there, which is that in a game like this where a lot of the range is quite dated, I do think there's something to be said for you can either have competitive models or you can have pretty models, but you can't have both, because then everyone's going to buy that, and that's just going to be everywhere.
I nearly picked you up on it. They didn't do it for Cathay, though, did they? They made
Just absolutely shaft my theory.
But yeah, maybe that's a good point. Maybe that is how you sell them for SBG. You leave the really competitive stuff as the old models because people will buy it for tournaments, and you make pretty new models of the uncompetitive stuff. Oh.
I know that this. Right. I believe in some games that power creep is a real thing. I'm sure it is. In a game like MESBG, where they're just like, hey, here's the new edition, and here's all the rules for everything at the same time, and they're not trying to sell you new models. And even when there's new models coming out, I genuinely believe that the people writing the rules have no idea what's going to be good and what's not going to be good. They might have a sense, I don't know, but I don't think, because the meta is actually really fascinating. A few things that I'm always really interested in is that it can be so different in different countries on the same rules. Yeah, so the Nations Cup is really interesting about that. So the Nations Cup obviously is lots of different nations coming together, and in different nations, the meta is different and they play differently. And so the Cup is really interesting because you get these different play styles and different kind of metas coming together. The other thing I find really interesting about it is that it changes over time without external input, because of the way people. So in the start of this edition, it was very, very monster heavy. Eagles were a massive menace. People thought trolls were going to be a massive menace. Ents were a massive menace. And people thought that monsters were going to be unstoppable. And they were really, really strong. And then people started to understand what the counters were and what other lists worked. And it evolved. And then obviously that caused people to bring more, I don't know, magic or whatever it is. And then that caused people to respond again. And it takes a long time for it to settle. And it often, I think in some games particularly, it never settles into a rut. And so to say that like they should try and tailor their approach to the meta when they have to plan the models like 2 years in advance, I think is probably a fool's errand.
I also think it's pretty obvious if you look at SBG that they're not doing that in the most part. Like you look at the War of the Rohirrim stuff, why isn't Army of Edoras the best army in the game? Like, they had the chance to just write brand new rules for the game to sell all the brand new models, all those brand new heroes, like Helm and stuff, and they're not. The Besiegers of the Hornburg, why aren't they incredible? There's 4 new army lists. One of them's very good. Usurpers of Edoras. One of them's awful, and 2 of them are mid. And the models, the Dunlendings, the Hill Tribesmen, they're really, really good. But the Warriors of Rohan, they're not incredible. Foot Warriors of Rohan. So why aren't they doing that? The last time I've genuinely felt it was the Iron Hills. When the Iron Hills came out, you got the impression they were good to sell the new range. And do you know what? That was the first thing they came up with to relaunch SBG, and they needed it to be a hit. And I'm like, cool, because of that Iron Hills release, that's why we're still here. That was like, you need to, and maybe you needed to just make them really appealing on every sense, and it worked. But since then, like what Shelob got a kick in because of how awful she is. So why aren't they making Shelob incredible to sell the new Shelob kit? Like,
no, I agree. I
don't think they're at all, and so I don't think they're doing Rise of Rohan because I just don't think they're out there thinking which are the warriors that need to.
Well, look at Khan. I mean, Khan do them. They were brand spanking new when they came out, and they were subpar at best. In rules writing wise.
I agree with you. It probably is there for some games, but it's not there for us in terms of the models. I think the next thing you're going to get, which could be a fun topic, is going to be either Gondor, Mordor, or Isengard, because they're the 4 battle hosts. They're the 4 things that they see as the biggest ranges, and it will be a plastic model, so it will be Knights of Minas Tirith, or Rangers of Minas Tirith, or Warriors of Minas Tirith, or Uruk Scouts, or Fighting Uruk High, or it'll be one of those next, I think. And that's what we're going to see.
I must admit, so I agree. I think Warriors of Gondor, unless they alternate good, evil, which is a solid thing to do. I mean, Orcs, like just a generic, Mordor Orc kit seems like a very, very good financial bet, and also one that people would appreciate. I must admit that the Warriors that I dislike the most at the moment are actually Warriors of Gondor, for two reasons. One, I think they're not fun to paint. I don't enjoy painting them. There's so many parts of the models that are just showing their age, like where pieces are molded into one another. There's huge, more than mold lines. There's bits on some of the helmets, the beautiful crests that should be a centerpiece of those miniatures, where the line runs right through the crest. And because of the way the crest is shaped and like the pattern is shaped, it's very, very, very hard to correct it. You'd have to, I think, do some extremely careful green stuffing to try and get it smoothed out. So I'd absolutely love to see some new Gondorians, not least because I think they're some of the most fantastic design from like the designs have got so much potential. A glow up on them would look just extraordinary.
So thank.
But it's exciting times. We know that might happen now.
Thank the stars. Whichever one they do, literally and we've seen it. The comments will literally be when
Gondor is too obvious. Too obvious.
Yeah. But I don't even mean that. I don't even mean that guy. I just mean like you'll release whatever next. Say it's Rangers of Gondor. They'll release them, and then they'll go when Knights. Yeah. Like on the same thing. It's like so you can't. And then they'll release Knights and go when Rangers.
Or sick of this Gondor focus. Let's move on to something else. No, they can't.
And I think we've got to try and be kind.
A lovely way to end the stream. And unless there's anything else, I think we will end and just say the title of this stream was is this the one announcement no one can complain about? And I think the answer is a resounding no. There will never be an announcement that no one can complain about.
There's a film as well.
Oh, we didn't mention the film at all. Yeah. Yeah. do you want to give us a? You've got 30 seconds. What's your film thoughts?
That went down worse than a cup of cold sick. I had 25 comments, 14 of them were along the lines of "Oh dear, please no, it's a week early, no thanks, hard pass." Oh hell no, it better be a joke.
Really?
Yeah, really.
What's your thoughts?
I think it's fine. I think it's great. Again, it's a bit like the plastics. It was clear that it shouldn't be this. It was quite clear what it should be, because what it should be is War in the North, and what it should be is Galadriel's Batter Under the Trees, and what it should be is the Three Brothers War versus the Witch King. What it should be is Brandon Dane, and what it should be is the Fall of Arnor, and what it should be is the Kinstrife of Gondor. And it's like, do you see? Do you see? I mean, a very positive person, and I think he was doing light-hearted. It was a really interesting comment that he said, why can't they just cover the war with Angmar? There's more than enough to cover a whole trilogy, and they wouldn't have to shoehorn any characters from Lord of the Rings from Witch King. This is complaining that the new Lord of the Rings film is going to be adapting
the Lord of the Rings characters.
3 chapters of this book, right? And he was saying, I don't want that. Why isn't it a trilogy based on part of the appendices? Have you seen the reaction to it? You think that if someone had gone, do you know what we're doing? A trilogy about the fall of Angmar, and everyone's gone, oh, yeah, that was the one.
I mean, so the not in their defense, but I acknowledge it was a brave choice. I think if I was in the producer's room funding a couple of $100 million on a new Lord of the Rings movie, there would be a lot of ideas I would imagine, not from my personal preference, but that I would feel brave enough to get through before landing on Tom Bombadil, a character who was actually quite divisive, even in the books. So even the book chapter, I remember reading the books for the first time, and I remember people being like, someone advising me, just skip over Tom Bombadil. I'm glad I didn't, but that was advice. He's always been slightly divisive,
for sure,
even in the sort of more traditional people. So, and the fact they're trying to expressly trying to fit it within the current canon. Obviously, it's going to have to be different actors and stuff like that. But so there's 2 shots. I went back and I found 2 shots between the film where presumably the entire new film will be set. They'll see the rider for the first time, and then they'll say we need to get to Bree, and what's his face will say Buckleberry Ferry, and then it cuts, and then a film will happen in which they go to the old forest, the old wood, and they meet Tom Bombadil, and then they go to the Barrow Downs, and then they are attacked by the Whites. Merry gets the knife, the dagger, or they both get daggers, I can't remember. And then it's them crossing the ferry to, that might not be right, but whatever. But then it's them getting to Bree. But then I did think it could be really cool to have something really different, something that leans into not having to be a build up to a really massive epic battle, but something driven on, something extremely Middle-earthy, which is, you know, less outwardly heroic and powerful, smaller beings and interesting creatures and people and their impacts on the world. And also, presumably, the climax of the film will be the confrontation with the Barrow Whites, which done well could be awesome. It could genuinely be really, really good. Yeah, you know, they could make it.
I don't know what I think maybe. I don't think it's going to be that. I think it's going to be, you're going to have Billy Boyd, Dominic Monaghan, and Sean Astin being like, this is how we remember it, and using the thing that I've talked about loads, the Tolkien's frame narration thing, to say that's not how I remember it. The reason that the story of the Rings in the film that you see is Frodo writing it down. So it's that's what you're meant to believe. You're meant to believe this is Frodo's recollection of what happened. So you could very easily go, no, you got that bit wrong. You could very easily do that kind of, because it's talking about Eleanor looking through the book. So I think she'll have the book and she'll be saying something, oh, I read the story. And then they'll go, oh, that's not how I remember that bit happening. Or something like that. And then that gives you the freedom to play with it. I also think the hunt for Gollum will talk to it. I think because they're being made in tandem, I think that one will have some threads or some characters who then turn up in the other one or something, I think. Because the Barrow Whites isn't a film climax, is it? The climax is the thing I'm worried about, as always. But yeah, I do that. But
you said you've been aroused for hours, apparently. So
I like that section, and I'm not. I've always liked the Old Forest, and I've always liked the Barrow Downs. I didn't like Tom Bombadil, and then when we did the streams on Tom Bombadil, and I went right back into everything about Tom Bombadil, I fell in love with it, and I think it's a great little story in there, as well as that little hint that they've said of something about Eleanor finding out something about the War of the Ring. Can I read my favorite?
I'm sorry, Damien.
This is my favorite comment.
Go on.
This, you know what it's about. You've read the article, right? Yeah. This will go nowhere. Just like the Jon Snow Game of Thrones sequel. They have a literal gold mine of canonical material written by Tolkien himself and an entire timeline that they could adapt. And instead, they choose to invent their own fan fiction story. I want In Strife of Gondor, Eöl the Young, The Field of Celebrant, The Fall of Arnor, The Rise of the Witch King Vainmar, The Wain Rise of Adrian. So I went in. Did you even read the article? It's literally an adaptation of 3 chapters of The Lord of the Rings. How on earth is that not canonical? It's utterly bizarre to say someone's saying that adapting the 4 pages of the appendices that cover Eöl the Young is somehow less fan fiction than adapting 3 chapters of the same book.
Very nice. And did you get a reply?
He has not replied. And that's the, you know, I suspect an awful lot of the reaction is that this is rubbish. What is it? I don't know, but I don't like it.
Whatever it is, it's shit. Yeah,
whatever it is, it's shit. Please, no. No thanks. Low standard slop for the bored masses.
See that? Okay, that really pissed me off. So someone saying please no, fine. I genuinely can see why someone would read that and be like, I'm just not in. That does not excite me at all. I can also see why someone would be like, what even though I'm, reasonably positive about it, I can see why it's an odd and unpredictable choice. And if someone said to me, I have no excitement about it. I didn't like Tom Bombadil in the books. I'm baffled as to why they went that way. I'd be like, fine. But saying, you know, fucking slop for the masses. 2 things. Firstly, obviously, it's just trying to get under the skin of the people who are enjoying it and who are into it. But second, it's like surely it is the exact opposite. What do you mean the masses? Well, everyone who's really, really, really into Tom Bombadil, like all the, you know, hundreds of thousands of people who have been screaming out for, like, you know, they're like, oh great, well we got fucking Endgame, Avengers Endgame, but why don't we have our big Tom Bombadil biopic yet? If anything, it's extremely niche. It's a really niche thing to do. That's why I thought it was confusing. I thought that's why I keep calling it Brave, because actually I think it's like, this might be something for the fans. You know, Stephen Colbert, whatever you think of Stephen Colbert, and I must be, I quite like him, but whatever, a lot of people won't. He is a very, very passionate Tolkien nerd. Obviously, had his little cameo in The Hobbit, and he, you know, it makes people know that that he is very, very into Lord of the Rings. I take a great deal of heart that they were like, we want someone to write this or to assist with the writing. We're going to go with an experienced writer, which he is, but we're going to go with someone who is already really passionate about the project.
He's also who's a screenwriter.
Yeah.
Can I read you the thoughts of Harry Parkill?
Sorry?
Can I read you the thoughts of Harry Parkill? Because I think it's a
you can read me your thoughts. I always like to hear from Mr. Parkill.
Harry says, sounds a bit lame to me. Colbert is obviously a talented guy and knowledgeable about Tolkien, so maybe it'll work. But I don't have a great deal of faith myself. Gollum's story makes way more sense as a story to adapt than the weakest bits of the Fellowship. It's a great comment. So
that's how you criticize something. Yeah.
I don't think this is a good idea. Here are my reasons. Cool.
Right? I mean, obviously, Harry is an art hat, so I really want to dislike it, and I'll find some way of doing that. But
compare that to why people want more of something when it is counterfeit. And on that again, counterfeit obviously means like fan fiction, and that was one I replied to and said, "Can I ask you why you think this is counterfeit?" And a different guy replied, and the answer was, so this isn't his opinion, he's answering for him, and he said, because Colbert is a shill looking for work after his terrible show finally got canned. And I was like, well, you're different people for one thing. I was like, but that I can't reason with that.
You can't. It's just,
and so I had some fun with that one. But I like, do you know what I mean? It's like that I've got no time for that. I've got no time. Well, you're not going to give a film a chance because you decided Colbert's a shill.
Like, I mean, Colbert. That's another. It's quite right. Obviously, Colbert is now an inherently political figure, as we discussed on Preston's Fire. You can politicize anything if you try hard enough. And the interesting thing, of course, and I hate that this is true. I hate this is true, and it's my channel, so I'll say it. But Middle Earth is becoming sort of a darling of right-wing fuckwads who take what I would describe as some unfortunate potential racial messaging in the story that I'm sure was unintended, but is there, where it, you know, essentially pits whiteness as goodness and darkness as badness, and very much and very, very obviously good white people versus not good not white people. So that's you know that's that's there, and it's a part of the story, and you can't escape that. But you can. It doesn't mean you have to live it. But obviously there's this kind of subculture of people now who take that and run with it. And they're like, that's what's so amazing about the Lord of the Rings is it's a recognition, which it isn't, which it just isn't, but it's a recognition of the idea, you've got to defend your culture and that there's that Westernness is goodness kind of thing, and that it's worth projecting and protecting. And yet the safe option for the producers who are investing a lot of money in this would have been to go with someone who has no political baggage, because that is going to be a factor in it. That is going to be a factor. But they didn't, and they went with someone again who is a massive fan of the show, and that's going to have immediately irked some people. But then the people it's irked are generally going to be fuckwads. So
yeah, you see so much of that being twisted. You see it all the time with his line. He's got the line about evil can never create anything; it can only corrupt. And you see that all the time under black actor casting Rings of Power. Do you know what I mean? You get that all the time, like taking his words that mean completely different things to reinforce a very racist ideology. And also he's categorically not. One of my favorite letters from him is where it must be in 1938, a German publisher writes to him about translating the Hobbit into German, and they ask him if he's got any Jewish heritage. And he says, I don't, but I wish I did. And he says, and he doesn't publish it. He says, I would rather, if you are asking me as a reason for whether or not my book should be published in your country, I won't publish it. It's that.
See, I just for the record, I do not believe that Tolkien was racist, or that the story had intends any kind of racial overtones. I mean, partly the difficulty is, and I've said this, and look, there are very, very knowledgeable people. I'm not a historian. I'm not a Tolkien expert. I'm not a sociologist. This is just me spaffing my thoughts out onto the internet. But it's to a certain extent, you know, he was a historian, and the story inherently relies on the histories that he was interested in, and to a certain extent they were histories of people being very racist, you know, that's that, and doing a history of kind of colonialism and empire and things like that.
You also have you have that they're the evil guys who are corrupted. You also have the line in the book from Sam, and that's given to Faramir in the film, where he goes, is he evil or has he been lied to? There's a very clear moment where they go, are these evil men evil? And in the Fourth Age, they repent. They're not evil. They're corrupted by Sauron, and then they repent. But it is. I know what you mean. It is being. There is a shift that way, and I don't know how much of that is, but you know, there was someone else going, it's a Philippa Boyens project, so it's going to have. And there was and someone else. I always say who. Someone else went in and go, what does that mean? And it was like she always pushes, you know, woke agendas. I was like, I thought the Lord of the Rings was pretty good.
The Lord of the Rings. If anyone comes to me and says that the Lord of the Rings film trilogy pushes woke agendas, we have lost the plot. But that is beyond. Like I said, in my view, if anything,
what they did with Arwen though, see what they did to Glorfindel, bullshit. Like replacing it with a girl.
It's just fucking nonsense. It's just I can't get into it. Also,
no one thought that at the time. And I remember, man, I was there. There was a backlash to having, why can't we have Glorfindel? But it wasn't like a sexist backlash.
No, it was nerds who wanted to see Glorfindel in the films.
Now, I think if you did that now, there'd be a huge backlash about doing that with Arwen. Oh, you're making Arwen a Mary Sue. Oh, rubbish.
Yeah, you absolutely would. Yeah, for sure. But
good.
I think
it's going to be a new film. It'll be cool.
New film. It's going to be cool.
If you don't,
and if it isn't, then
it's fine.
Then well, we've got new films. It's not the end of the world. They can't undo what the goodness we've had. I genuinely, like I said, if it turns out to be a bit rubbish, then I'll back here and be like, that was a real shame. That was a bit rubbish. But I'm going to choose to live in hope for the next couple of years.
Again, why not? Why choose to be the other one? You don't know it's going to be awful, so be optimistic and then go and see it, and then you'll be happier. And then if you don't like it, you go, no, that's a shame. Why spend your time being consumed?
I've got friends who would say, well, if you set your expectations low, you can only be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
But this takes us right back to the beginning of the conversation. I really enjoy being in the hype. I enjoy the childish glee. That's why I like in that toy announcements, because it's like, yeah, it's gonna be new toys. Okay. This is spawning quite some commentary, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
So Michael says, "Can you?" This is. I tell you what I'm gonna do is I said we're gonna stop at 10:30. It's now 10 to 11, and I'm if I get too far down this rabbit hole, it will make me very sad, and I will probably say some things that I might regret. So I'm going to, we'll leave it. We'll leave it there before we get further down the rabbit hole. Thank you so much, Damien. Unless there's anything else, I've really enjoyed the stream.
It's wonderful. We have a new Middle Earth film. We have new Middle Earth models, and we have a new Middle Earth book. It's cool, isn't it?
It's good stuff. It's good stuff. And so the only thing that someone asked is, I had a few comments on my channel saying if I'm going to do Rohan again, what will be the thematic destination? I'd really love to go to take like 3 weeks and drive to Vienna. My understanding is that the Pelennor, that the battle, and particularly the Charge of the Rohirrim, is based on the relief of the city of Vienna, which was under siege by the Turks. And I think that'd be an awesome road trip to complete. So with any luck, if they're out later this year, that might be a big trip there to put on the channel.
I heard the Charge of the Rohirrim was based on the ancient Hawaiian people on the island of Kauai.
It's so hard to get the dog there, though. That's the problem.
That'll be my thoughts. I'm pretty sure it's there.
Thanks very much, everyone. Thank you for the comments. We've had loads and loads of wonderful comments, and I haven't actually read all that many of them. Well, I've been reading them all. I've not read all of them out, and apologies for that. I do tend to find that if we try and read every single comment, then we're here all night. But I hope you've enjoyed it, and please do trust that I have read them, and I've put a lot of them up on screen. And fingers crossed, we'll be back in a few months talking about the wonderful new kits from Gondor or Isengard or Moria or wherever it happens to be. Until then, bye.
Bye.